It's a pin that's been given to protect him in his journey in the start,
Yeah.
only for him to actually go completely against the values that the pin
Mm,
holds and to
yeah.
be again brought back to being protected by it. So at
Mm.
the end of the day, the feminism continues to protect him while he continued to plunder it. That's what I felt out of the
Interesting.
story.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
like he needs the
definitely did
woman
Continue
not
to be
think
to
of
desperate.
that.
exploit,
So
continue to pay your penance, and at the same time, you come back to where you started,
yeah.
and then go like, oh, now I will again go through another sense of penance to complete the circle.
You mean to say that
Okay.
you do
Yeah.
a lot of things instead of going to therapy? That's what you mean at this
Yeah,
point.
but therapy is not always useful. Anyways,
Yes,
It
we
depends on the
know,
therapist.
Dhruv.
yeah.
Both of us know that at least. Yeah.
जादू मंतर जादू मंतर जादू मंतर You are going into the future.
You talking to me?
They always be the scene closing. என் பேர் மாணிக்கம் எனக்கு இன்னொரு பேர் இருக்கு
Talking to me?
Queen is dead.
Hello. Welcome to Queen is Dead's foray into another Nolan film, which has not happened in 2 years or 3 years time, when we last discussed in his entire filmography plus Oppenheimer when it released. And you can, I mean, I have to plug them because, if you want our thoughts on what we think about Nolan as a whole, his filmography, what we make of his films, which will all also affect our response to the film we are discussing today, you can go back and listen to those episodes. Today, we will be discussing one of the biggest films of the year, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
Don't you remember? Thunder. Fire. Death.
I remember a wife, a son, home.
Which is a adaptation of Homer's like 3,000-year-old poem, I think. And we'll be discussing, like as we do with singular films, when we do discuss them, each and every sort of aspect of the film in a sort of holistic way, not of course as a sort of, this was good, this was bad way. But we have a extremely full panel today of people talking about this. Oh no, as Varun said, I like borrowing this. One or two things Varun does decently. A manel again today. So it's Varun, of course. Hi Varun, how are you?
All right, Dhruv, how are you?
Was all right. How are you? And then we have Amartya. How are you, Amartya?
I am eating popcorn. How are you?
Okay, so
That's what
I'm
you were
all
supposed to do
right.
during the movie.
I did
Chris,
that then also.
Chris is also here. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I hope I will be fine, sir.
Oh yeah, because
What about you?
I think Chris is in danger today. But anyways, Arjun is also here. When's the last time you came, Arjun? I'm also forgetting my
Disclosure
name.
day.
Disclosure Day,
Disclosure Day.
yes, that
Correct,
wonderful
yeah.
film which I still haven't seen.
Must.
And we have a very special returning guest, the co-founder of this podcast today. He only joins us for, I think, all these big event films at this point, because I want to call him back for Dune 3 or Dune Messiah, whatever it's called also.
Dune
So
3 right now.
whatever
Part
it
3,
is, it's
yeah.
the same thing. It's
Lawrence of
adapting
Arabia,
Messiah, right?
Dvitiya. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyways, Hemant, as you can hear his voice, Hemant is also
Yeah.
here. Hi,
Hi.
Hemant.
Hi. Don't ask me how I am right now.
Oh, okay.
It's sensitive. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Perfect. I am Dhruv. You know how I am most of the time also, so no point in me elaborating on that.
Dejected. Completely
Anyways,
dejected, yes.
Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, of course, directed by him, written by him, uh, And it's very funny to me when it's in on IMDb. It's written by Christopher Nolan, and then the next credit is Homer, always. So it's quite funny. And the DOP is Hoyt van Hoytma. I think he's found his crew again, essentially, right after Wally Pfister. The Wally Pfister collaboration ended when? After Inception,
Dark Knight Rises.
Dark
Dark
Knight
Knight Rises
Rises.
was the last film they worked on.
And now he's basically working with a similar crew of people. He's only switched out Hans Zimmer for Ludwig Göransson recently, which honestly
not
at this
recently,
point is an
Tenet, I think.
upgrade. Huh?
Tenet, so it's been 4 films. It's been quite.
He also
bunch
changed
of-
his editor. It's Jennifer Lame is editing
His
it.
Yes.
editor, Jennifer Lee.
So yeah, so this is the crew for Oppenheimer is essentially the crew for the Odyssey also, as was the crew for in terms of the technicians, everyone who was involved mostly. And then
Except
this
one change in producer.
Who?
This is produced just by Emma Thomas and Nolan himself.
Oh,
Charles Roven
interesting.
produced that film. So
Interesting.
it's like a complete sort of syncopy production.
Nice.
Hmm.
And the casting includes amongst I don't know how many people, but it includes
The
Matt
almost
Damon.
entirety of Hollywood, almost entirety. The rest was in Avengers Doomsday. This is
Sure,
clear.
that's
The rest
true.
is in Avengers Doomsday.
It is including Matt Damon here as the titular. Well, he's not the titular. He is
The
Odysseus.
protagonist.
He is our the protagonist, basically like John David Washington.
Oh
in
God, no! Please,
Tenet.
no!
Tenet stands can rise. There are 2 of them here. Yeah. Anyways, and then there's Anne Hathaway in her third role of this year already,
Third.
and she has another
Third.
one coming out this year.
Yes.
The end
Oh,
of
Yes.
the
sorry,
fourth
this is
something
second, I
thing.
think.
No, third.
She's
Mother
got a-
Mary is out, no?
Mother Mary is
Mother
out.
Mary is out.
This is out. Yeah.
Mother
No one
Mary,
else. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she has
Devil
Wears
5
Prada
films
2.
in total coming out this year.
5. Wow.
Yeah,
Acha, haan, she's
that's
in
what I
that
heard,
in that Dakota Johnson.
Very
Yeah,
deep.
Verity.
Anyways, but yeah, Anne Hathaway, Matt Damon, Tom Holland, who we will be talking about extensively, and a lot of other supporting turns. These are the principal, and I guess Robert Pattinson is also part of the principal cast if you want to sort of pin it down. And then there's sort of supporting roles in Himesh Patel, Samantha Morton, Charlize Theron, etc., etc. Just John Barenthal, Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, Lupita Nyong'o and Elliot Page are the sort of controversial ones, so I guess we'll talk a little bit more about them also.
Benny
So
Safdie.
Benny Safdie, who basically is Bane. So you
I thought he was Batman, but okay.
Batman.
Assess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Batman is Bruce Wayne though, right? So we know who Batman is. Without the
Acha,
mask.
you
He's
mean,
just
huh?
there
Okay.
for the
Same thing
aura.
without the
So,
mask.
yeah.
He's playing a Ghost of Tsushima character. Sorry if anyone doesn't get the reference.
Thank
essentially.
you,
Great
thank you.
job.
Me being the
What a
thank,
great job, man.
thank you. Yeah.
This is for people into samurai films, I guess. You should listen to our samurai episode also. I'm just plugging
I mean, you
every
forgot to
episode.
plug the live stream we did on Oppenheimer as well. It was you, me, and Aryan on Oppenheimer.
What?
The
When?
Glazer film, The Zone of Interest, and
Yeah,
Killers
I
of
have
the Flower
totally
Moon for the
forgotten that
Oscars.
even existed, so I'm sorry. But please listen
That
to
was good
Varun on
stream
this.
though. Yes.
Please listen to Varun for once. And yes, that is it with all the boring introduction and very clunkily sort of, handled introduction. But anyways, we move on to, I guess we decided we'll start off with where does the Odyssey lie for us in Nolan's filmography. This is me not saying that you guys rank the filmography as such, but like what is a sort of impressionable thing about where it lies for you as a general gauge. And I think it'll be nice if everyone sort of also expresses what their general feelings about Nolan is again, just to have a starting point as to how we are approaching these the Odyssey, because all of us have sort of a different take on Nolan, and all of us will sort of come out of the Odyssey also maybe feeling differently because of our previous sort of positions on his filmography. So I will begin with the person who's least impressed by Nolan. So Hemant, can you please explain yourself and then put the
Well,
Odyssey in your not ranking, in your sort of estimation
Yeah.
of where it lies. Yeah.
I don't want to do like an S tier, A to B, A to D tier.
No, don't do
go
it.
thorough. Yeah,
Don't
I
do
know.
it. No, as in,
Because,
I would say just do a basic thing of, is it sort of on a level of, again, very biased, but on a level of sort of, never mind, do
Wait,
whatever
you're
you
gonna out yourself,
do whatever.
Which
No,
at
no,
the
no.
level of
No, 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 no,
at the
no.
level of
Let's
what?
move on. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move on. Let's go.
At the level of
Let's hear this, yeah.
Insomnia or The Prestige. Which one is
Let's
it?
hear this.
So yeah, I think
I feel
you've
like-
established your thing or what? Is that
Yeah,
the
my era, like the
range?
favorite era. Yeah, I guess
Okay.
I would say if I have like a top like two, I could say which are my North Stars North Stars, my quasars I'll call them for how Nolan kind of is to me, or like what his vibe is. It's The Prestige, and it would be Dunkirk.
Okay.
For me, like The Prestige to me really was his, like, at the time, because he had done image, like, I mean, we keep forgetting that how many movies were behind him at the time.
Yeah.
So when he did The Prestige, I felt that was him kind of flexing. And I mean, you got David Bowie, of course, you're flexing. So so I think when I compare this to that kind of storytelling of I'm doing this hand thing actually. I'm now
That's
trying
okay.
to,
Yeah,
because I've seen
yeah.
enough Nolan interviews that the hand thing has become a thing. So all the if you see Prestige, you kind of see his style, you see how it's developed, like all the way from The Following to Insomnia and so forth. But then I saw like then you get to the next era, which is kind of the IMAX era, where he's more interested in not the plot and how the characters are developing, but more with the propulsion of the movie and how the momentum of the movie is built up. And that's where he kind of has now become more on that side rather than character, or at least that's what I thought. Then Oppenheimer came along, and it was mostly a character study with the propulsion, and that was the experiment there. This seems more like the experiment of how do you visually engross people in a character story with episodes and set pieces that I mean, it's not really questioning you or giving you a challenge of piecing it together. It's not like any other movies. This
Or a
is
puzzle
actually
box.
his.
Yeah.
It's not really a puzzle box. This is what I compare. Like, this is David Lynch's straight story. Is what
Interesting.
this is to
It's
to
still not
Nolan.
straight, of course. Here.
It isn't, but in its source material, it isn't straight already.
Yeah.
So this is him actually just respecting the source material more than giving his own spin
Sure.
on it. And that's where I kind of see it in the filmography, is that this is his kind of like his like I have now properly married character with propulsion, and
Sure.
that's where he's at, is to me, like in
So
the
it's a
way I've
good
seen
phase
all
for
his
you.
movies.
So it's a good
For
phase.
me, it's a
for you.
good phase. This is a start, is what I think.
Okay,
This
sure.
is more like a. This is more like a. Yeah, this is really a start rather than some sort of
Hitting the
It
peak,
is.
sort of.
Yeah, because it was like a deja vu
I
of
don't think
everything I've seen before. Like,
It
I
is.
don't think it's a peak per se, but sure.
It's a lessons learned. It's
Yeah,
like
basically, yeah.
yeah, it's like
Fair.
because you can see the lessons learned from Dark Knight Rises here, really. Like this.
There are a lot
Exile,
of
when
lessons
he
to be
says
learned from
exile, when he says exile, I'm like, oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
god,
I
Gary
was-
Oldman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Amartya, you go ahead next. No, actually, we are going least fond of
Yeah,
Nolan.
then Chris is going in next.
Are
Yeah.
you the least fond, or am I less fond than you now at this point?
What?
No,
with
he's the
Nolan.
least fond.
No, I said with Nolan in general, not as a sort of not just
No,
on
no,
the
I think
Odyssey.
you'd be less fond than I am of
Okay, so
Nolan.
I'm very fond. So it's not like I'm not fond at all. So I think there's a sizable distance between Hemant's sort of measured response to Nolan and my. I have a huge amount of respect for Mr. Christopher Nolan, and I think there is, for me, my entry into Hollywood, sort of big blockbuster Hollywood, is still Inception. So there's a lot. So to me, it's a huge thing when I see a filmmaker marrying sort of some semi-art house sensibilities with blockbuster cinema. So to me, he is a representation of that. And I think his work has almost always been an amalgam of both. For the better or for worse, I think we can argue in whatever way. The only thing, and I guess the only reason I'm sort of tempered on his filmmaking is I guess I've seen a lot more films from which he borrows, I suppose. I've also seen a lot more films whose aesthetic approaches to what he's doing I kind of prefer. But I have to make this crucial distinction. He's making films on a spectacular scale now, especially. And the filmmakers and films I like and I sort of prefer are making art house films. So they have a considerable amount of freedom in making their cinema as opposed to Nolan. And I think Nolan, outside of Tenet for me, has largely managed to sort of meld the two really well. I am still open to rewatching Tenet. Even after 3 times, I'm open to rewatching it. I've not clicked with it 3 times. But sure, I will listen to the people who love it and I will rewatch it again. So to me, I think the fundamental with Nolan has been that I don't think he's a filmmaker who can deal with simplicity. I think the more overcomplicated his films become, I think it suits him because he is a fussy filmmaker. I think he is a sort of filmmaker who likes to sort of, zip and sort of like he can't do straightforward narrative, which I think is why Insomnia is my least favorite of his work, because I think it's the most straightforward, very, very, basic, like almost Hollywood template thriller in that sense. And I think he struggles with doing just that. So to me, he's always been good at marrying spectacle with sort of a sincere emotionality, which I think he lost with Tenet. I know people who like Tenet actually prefer him when he dives headlong into mechanics of filmmaking and, where all that takes over. I'm a Inception, Memento is my sort of whatever North Star Hemant was saying. And I think that's the film in which he Quasar. In which he marries form and content in the sort of best way possible. Because I think it's ingrained in his sensibilities to marry, because his films are all about memory, narratives, etc., etc. So I think with the Odyssey, a lot of it is all this coming back to me while watching the Odyssey only. So I guess I'll say it from before. I've not read the Odyssey. I don't want to read the Odyssey. I don't care about classical text that much.
You don't read in the first place. It's fine. You don't want to read in the first.
That's not fair, because we've discussed.
You don't know how to read, no?
We've discussed Wes Anderson's films, and that
Yeah,
time I
but
had
that
read
doesn't
it.
change the fact that you're functionally
Sir,
illiterate. But
you
That's
reading
fair.
short story. Sir, you reading short story and you reading an epic is like a.
Yeah. But I'm also saying that there are texts which I might be interested in, but still not ever read. But I'm not even interested, so I will never read it, regardless of anything. And Odyssey dekhne ke baad also I won't read it. I just have no interest. Is my thing.
Yeah,
So
I was actually going to recommend a book to Dhruv a couple of weeks ago. I ended up recommending it to Hemant because I said, even if Dhruv likes the writer, even if the subject interests him, he's not going to read this.
Yeah, most likely. Anyways, but we won't delve into this. But my point is that I think the Odyssey is a great sort of, to me, works almost like a meta-textual thing about sort of Nolan's filmography flowing through his text, and you sort of viewing the flow of his movies through Odyssey. To me, it works on that level. There are some idiosyncrasies in it that work really well for me. And it is somewhere in the middle for me in his filmography. I'm still the biggest fan of sort of Memento, Inception, which are basically the same film. One is upscaled, one is sort of downscaled in the character work and like spectacle and whatever you want to call it. So yeah, this is solid Nolan work for me, with sequences which I think are elevated above being sort of pretty good to a sort of very, very good film. So yeah, I'm reasonably more mixed on it, I guess, in comparison to the bigger sort of people who are saying it's his best film, but I'm very much fond of it, and I will defend its deficiencies today, which will be talked about a fair bit, I think. Next
Dhruv
is
just nice? Was Dhruv just nice?
I'm always nice. What does that mean?
Oh wow, damn man.
Hold
Yeah,
on for a
like
second.
usually
Hold on for a second.
this
That's not
is-
true. That's not true. That is not true.
I'm always nice. What does that mean?
No, meaning like you were very kind.
Cordial.
to
You were very
his-
respectful.
No, I would not. Yeah, respectful and like actually empathetic to Nolan and
Yeah,
like,
but
to
he is
have-
a
to
he is a
blockbuster filmmaking. Yeah,
because
actually
I am
not to Nolan, but to blockbuster filmmaking in general.
no, but I guess that's good that you've said this, because I'll clarify. I don't click with a lot of contemporary blockbuster filmmaking. So when he makes something, I do very much look forward to it. Project Hail Mary for me is like a disaster. So to me, like, it's one of those things where I can't stand it. Like I would have left it halfway through
There he
if I had the
is. There he
choice.
is. Keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, that's that
Yeah,
because you
it's
said
like it's like he's coming out. It's like he's coming out of that.
no,
haze.
but I think I am fond of a sort of auteur making the blockbuster their own in many ways. That if that's the
Yeah.
point, and you can cite a Stanley Kubrick or whatever you want to go from that era.
Mm.
Nolan is no Stanley Kubrick, very much saying that.
Or
But I'm
David
saying-
Lean, I will
He
say.
could be. He could be if you think about it, but
I-
he isn't.
I
I'm just
think
saying
he's
he could be.
he's
If you look at it from a certain lens, he could be.
he wants to be, if you want to say
He
that. but
wants
yeah.
to be, yeah. He
But-
wants to be. He could be because the
Hmm.
range of topics that he's choosing to cover.
He can't do romance. He can't do. I think
Rom-com. I would
When
love
is
an
Kubrick
Adam
doing
McKay
rom-com?
style.
When did
I wa-
Kubrick do rom-com?
Kubrick is very funny. I think in general.
What brief encounter?
No, Brief Encounter
Kubrick
not
or
Kubrick.
Lean?
Sorry,
David Lean,
my
right?
Lean. My bad. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh well.
the people who love Eyes
Eyes
Wide
Wide
Shut
Shut. Eyes
Yeah,
Wide
well,
Shut.
Eyes
Yeah,
Wide
like-
Shut.
Oh
Yeah.
God, Eyes Wide Shit.
I
Yeah,
mean,
forgot.
but
Yeah.
shit, come on. Like,
Yeah,
that is
Eyes Wide
such
Shit,
a
yeah,
true...
yeah.
That is actually a...
Yeah, I
and
think,
even,
but I think people
Barry
who love it
Lyndon.
will agree. Barry Lyndon is quite. I mean, he's a funny filmmaker. I think Nolan is not a funny.
Nolan is
filmmaker.
decidedly
Yeah.
not humorous. Yeah.
Yes, which is
yeah.
fine.
the
Like
problem.
my bigger point, I think, is simply that no, I am not sympathetic to blockbuster filmmaking. I'm sympathetic to filmmakers who can make blockbuster filmmaking their own, fuse their sensibilities and the blockbuster sensibility. And I think Nolan is the only one left now. Who else does this? I mean, except for Spielberg, I guess. Spielberg is the one, but his films also don't do well.
Spielberg though is the father of the modern day blockbuster, so he's not
Yeah.
going to get it wrong in the conventional sense. He's going to get it wrong in terms of
His
tone
own...
and in
He's
terms of writing.
his own standard, really. Yeah, he can't...
Yeah,
you
so
can't
and
really
most-
I
compare
think
him to himself.
with
And
Nolan,
most
his
blockbusters-
competitors are, or if you want to call them his contemporaries, are probably Villeneuve, and I'd be hard pressed to say
Yes.
this, but Matt Reeves, I think, is competing with some of the big filmmakers, even
I
though
would
he
say
doesn't
like
have a
James
massive
Cameron,
individual.
maybe.
Cameron,
Yeah.
I don't think
Cameron
Cameron
is
is
like
contemporary.
Spielberg.
Products,
Cameron
come
is
on.
Cameron is
Cameron is
Spielberg.
not contemporary.
Like
Cameron is
Spielberg
post
only.
Spielberg,
They're a different lane. They're following their own.
I think
thing,
it's
so
Denis
not-
Villeneuve and Nolan, actually. Those are the two
Yeah.
comparisons.
those
to
two
I
do.
are
know
right.
Dhruv made a face. I want people to know Dhruv made a face when I said Matt Reeves, but there's a reason why I said this.
He's made two
He
movies.
has been
Because Bridge
What do you
over
mean he made two
River Kwai
movies?
with
He's
Apes.
made
Oh,
quite
actually,
a
he's
lot
made
of
No,
the
he has
Planet of
made
the
quite
Apes
number of
also.
movies,
Sorry.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
forgot
which
about
were
them,
very
sorry.
popular, which were well made,
Yeah.
which were fusing upcoming technology at that time, certainly.
He
Also,
made
a
a
lot of
vampire movie
references to
also.
old movies, yeah.
He made a
I mean-
vampire movie also, if I'm not mistaken.
He bastardized the vampire movie. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but
let
you
the
get that.
let the right one into
Let the right
let
one in,
me
yeah,
in
yeah.
or something like that. yeah.
Whatever, you get
That's
the
his
idea.
insomnia, right? Essentially.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
That's what we are
Let the
doing
right-
now. We are putting the Nolan stamp on other filmmakers to check where it
I
falls.
don't know. Varun made the
Well,
comparison.
I think
That-
it's also just challenging to make a blockbuster today, because you look at
Yeah.
some of like the films that have come out in just a physical blockbuster sense. Amartya is again going to jump at me. The Fall Guy is supposed
I
to
am
be a
not.
blockbuster.
I'm not.
It's very difficult to mount that kind of film and reach out to an audience without having like an existing property for them to tap into. You know, there's a reason Mad Max was successful 11 years ago, but it probably will not be successful today.
It wasn't.
And Furiosa
Furiosa.
I mean,
Yeah.
Furiosa
Right,
wasn't.
because it didn't have anything so cloyingly contemporary for people to tap into.
Yeah.
I think that the function of the blockbuster has completely changed. It's more to do with theme park filmmaking, as Martin Scorsese calls it, and
Which
it's
isn't
tough to
a
do
bad
that.
thing, just to also clarify.
It isn't a
Which he
bad
himself
thing, but
said
it's a
that, yeah.
completely different thing from what blockbuster filmmaking was originally like, which is the space in which Nolan exists.
Yeah.
He is not using Odyssey as a vehicle to sell Matt Damon costumes, to sell, puppies.
Oh,
from
Grogu.
some
Yeah,
Reddit
yeah. Because
store.
we've seen Grogu, right?
Or Grogu, yeah.
The IMAX popcorn bucket, he's not selling that. He
Yeah,
sells
I
Sir,
know,
only
I know.
IMAX is selling
300,
that.
only
IMAX is
300
selling that.
pieces. Only
Yeah.
300 pieces. That I don't think any has been manufactured anymore. So
I mean, he won't make a movie which is retroactively. So, because we watched Grogu, Star Wars, and Grogu, and I was like, you have
Mandalorian.
let me
That's
actually,
how
it's
Star
Mandalorian and
Wars and
Grogu.
Grogu,
Yes.
wow.
how
yes,
does
Star
it
Wars and-
matter? How does it matter? He is
So the
barely
point is
in
that the
it.
Mandalorian does not matter. It is a
Yes,
Grogu
exactly.
picture.
Exactly.
I mean,
Anyways,
but modern blockbusters are more in the
yeah,
Minions and Monsters space, where or
yes.
Toy Story 5, where
Or
they'll
even like
gallop to
Mario
$1 billion.
Brothers and all that, which is all about
Yeah,
like
Yeah, the Super
animated
Mario
movies.
Brothers
Animated movies kind of have their own kind of lane for
That's a different thing.
lane, yeah.
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 But those are not memorable films anymore, right? Like Minions can make $1 billion, but will it be memorable or not is a completely different question. Whereas you'll remember a lot of the older
We
animation
have
lot
Minion
better.
fans in Quid.
No, we don't.
Yeah, Ashwin, but like we're
Yeah.
not admitting.
No,
him to listening to
Ashwin
me.
only liked the third movie because there are Citizen Kane references. Let's be
Okay.
very clear.
Wow.
और कोई
I mean,
कारण
no,
नहीं है.
there's a great scene. I must say, there's a great scene in which like Christoph Waltz voices a Hollywood director who's supposed to look a bit like Eric von Stroheim, and he's like thanking the
Yeah.
minions as they leave Hollywood, and each minion is named after a director. So he's like, thanks Steven, thanks Quentin, thanks Frederick Fellini or whatever. You know, so that's a funny
I
scene,
really
but
want
that's
to see
it.
this. Okay,
That's it.
I have not seen this movie, but it's already perfect.
No, sorry. Let's get back to.
But
the
you will
audience.
get to you only. What back? You say about your Nolan
Okay.
spiel.
I mean, for me, there are like multiple tiers. The bottom is obviously occupied by Tenet. I think it is his most annoying film that I have watched. Insomnia, I can still forgive as sort of early Hollywood start and all of that jazz. Tenet coming at pretty much the height of his powers is unforgivable. And The Dark Knight Rises, I cannot claim to be fond of, even though it's the first time I watched Nolan film in a theater.
You didn't like it then also?
I didn't have context yet. I hadn't watched
Acha, you
Batman
hadn't watched the
Begins, The Dark
first two
Knight.
also. Acha, okay.
Yeah. Because we didn't live in towns where those films came
Okay.
in. So you.
I mean, Dark
just-
Knight
I
is
mean, you had
barely it's
HBO.
related only. It's a Batman Begins sequel more than anything.
I mean, there was some form of like perversion, I suppose, with Anne Hathaway for 12 or 13-year-old me. Like
Okay,
she's so
amazing.
attractive, but that was about it. It wasn't a memorable. Bane
Nice
was
that you're
fun,
being
right?
this honest.
I mean, Bane was fun because like how often did you get a villain who just comes in
Bane was
casually,
fun.
he breaks Batman's back. Like, come on. Like, that is a definitive
This is
statement
another one of those
intent.
Nolan, please use subtitles. Like honestly, just
Oh yeah,
put
that's
them.
that's there. I mean, I do remember
You could
being
not
awestruck.
understand what I was saying. Kind of like that. Shit,
I
yeah.
could.
actually have a bit I used
Bengali
to do
Bane is in the house.
Yes.
literally any empty bottle that you can do,
Yeah,
you just
Yeah.
do
any
the,
empty bottle you can do.
I was born in the darkness.
That
and,
is
and you can
actually-
really make you
That's
can make the
exactly it.
resonance work really well with any
That's
empty glass.
exactly it, yeah.
So
Anyways,
I do
yeah.
remember being awestruck by the pit sequence and
Opening
the
sequence?
the opening sequence as well.
Yeah, the plane
with
sequence.
the
Right?
two
Yeah.
aircraft. But the pit when he escapes, like it had that whole classical filmmaking of hero
You didn't
versus
you
the
didn't
odds
enjoy
kind of
when
thing.
Marion Cotillard dies in
He
the
died.
film?
Best movie death ever. I do
Anyway,
like.
sorry.
I think it's funny in that.
It is
Cillian
extremely
Murphy
funny.
with Gary Oldman. That's fun.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Then like you've got Following, which is again an outlier. I really like it. It's probably his funniest and his meanest movie. Because like everybody is just weird and absurd
just-
in it.
Yeah, and really bad people. Like everyone's really
Yeah,
Yeah, but
horrible,
it-
horrendous
there's lots
people,
of.
like-
But I think he's better at horrible people than at good people, in general.
No, sure, but like I think the Following is also a matter of him being like really hamstrung by money.
Yeah.
So tightening the film as much as he could.
Yeah, that's what. 60 minutes, 70 minutes, something like that.
70 minutes.
Yeah.
Then there's like Interstellar and Batman Begins, which are like the movies I start to enjoy. Really,
Okay.
like I enjoy Following, but I can obviously
Inception.
point out lots of flaws. I mean, I'm building up to it, Hemant. Come
Okay,
on.
sorry. Okay, sorry.
Give me my dramatic moment. And then comes the Odyssey. So there are 6 films after the Odyssey for me
Okay.
in his rating, and 6 films above it.
Above.
The Odyssey is for me his great adventure film. Like I think in every Hollywood filmmaker's career, they either do a religious story or they'll do a quasi-religious story. So Scorsese did The Last Temptation of Christ, that late 80s, and he'd been making films for about 15-20 years by then.
Yeah.
Spielberg did Schindler's List, which is quasi-religious. It's tapping into the Holocaust and all of that stuff in 93, about 20 years into his career. This is Nolan in year 25, 26 of filmmaking, doing his bit. So I think it's got antecedents in Hollywood as well, and it's a fun adventure film. I also think it's like really ambitious, but there are also just bits and bobs of it that don't work, and it doesn't sort of it didn't engross me in the way a lot of Nolan's other work has. Like it didn't capture my, like, it thrilled me as just a movie watcher, but like I couldn't get behind it emotionally and stuff like that.
Sure.
And I watched it in like the format in which it's
But
shot
you are
in
anyways
70
our
mm IMAX.
resident ice. What is it? You don't have
Ice.
emotions. No,
Yeah, sure.
whatever. You leave it.
Um,
Patthar dil, sir.
Self-professed.
Patthar
Self-professed.
dil.
I mean,
Huh.
sure, but like I think Nolan's made better emotional films than this.
I agree.
So I mean,
Wait, one
above
sec.
this would be
What is the most emotional movies that he has made according to you?
for me Dunkirk.
Okay, same.
That's
Yeah.
the closest I'll come to crying in a Nolan film, and I don't cry. So I mean, I don't know what that feeling is like.
I
but
I also think
Dunkirk
Dunkirk in a way.
has captured my heart because it's so moving, and it's viscerally difficult. It's at the top of like my Nolan this thing with the Prestige and the Dark Knight, and then there's like a chunky star movies which are Memento, Inception, and so like because they really inform so much of his filmmaking in the time bending and time warping and spectacle, right? People look at, like Dhruv pointed out about Inception, right? It is really his building up of the spectacle, because Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, you could always just say, yeah, he's part of that franchise, so he's having to do this. But in Inception, he really comes into his own as a visual filmmaker as well. Though to me, Prestige is also gorgeous to look at. He does
Yeah, it
Victoria
is.
in London, a great credit, and Colorado Springs, I think, as
Yeah,
well. Where
that was
he
my favorite
meets,
sequence. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and only
Nikola Tesla.
like these are these very interesting things that Nolan does. Like Harry Styles gets cast in Dunkirk. Who's the rapper? Travis Scott gets pulled up for the Odyssey. Bowie is Tesla in The Prestige. These are the kinds of things that we've come to expect of him. So I truly do enjoy his cinema, but like there are lots of like
Yeah.
bits and bobs of it that don't work.
Yeah.
Okay. Amartya, you go. No, Chris, you go. Then Amartya, then Arjun. Because I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's the order of how we all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's strange because, again, I'm someone who hasn't seen all of Nolan's work. There are still a couple of films that I've missed out on.
Oh, you've seen
And,
it. Dhoom 3.
of course. But no, apart from that, it's that I think of him, I mean, it's strange to say, but I think of him less as, an auteur and more as like a guy who makes like really films I really like and really just like really solid films. That's how I have always thought of a Christopher Nolan film. I mean, it's been in the last couple of years where I've started to sort of think of his films, with respect to each other. So so for me, there is again there's mid-tier Nolan, there's top-tier Nolan, there's bottom-tier Nolan. Top-tier Nolan for me it's Inception and Memento, and that's just what I adore about his work. And for me, it is like you were saying, Dhruv, that he is experimenting formally within the blockbuster template, which is what I think is interesting to me. It's that how do you push the medium when working in a field which is absolutely opposed to the kind of pushing of the medium is what I resonate with the most. I'm also someone who's much more sympathetic to human drama than I am to spectacle. So the fact that I like some of his films as much as I do is kind of surprising to me, because I think he is kind of hit or miss with a lot of human drama. So again, to me, to be on the complete opposite side, bottom tier Nolan to me is Dunkirk. Because Dunkirk is probably my least favorite Nolan film that I've seen, just because it did not work for me emotionally at all. I was just like, I'm watching this to however long spectacle, and just one thing and the
Short.
other
It's
thing
not
is
that
happening.
long. Yeah.
However long it is, but like it's just a thing is happening, then another thing is happening, and I felt nothing, and I'm just like sitting through it, and I have very little interest in that. Like I don't I like spectacle, so I enjoy like an Inception, which has balances that human drama and spectacle really well. And I also like when he does more like closer to human drama, say Oppenheimer, which is like good mid-tier Nolan, where there is you focus on the characters and you let the
Chris,
spectacle
you
take.
really have to explain how you like Tenet then. I mean,
No, so
yeah.
Tenet then becomes to me a film again. So there is some emotionality to it that I do appreciate, which is the whole
Really?
Pattinson John David
Okay,
Washington
okay,
thing,
fine,
The
sure.
which
bromance. It's
worked.
the bromance. Yeah,
It's
it
it's the
actually works.
bromance which
It
works
works.
for me. I would
Yeah.
say that. And the second thing I think to me, Tenet is the spectacle is fun. To me, the spectacle in Dunkirk is not fun either.
I mean, it's not
So
supposed to
that
be.
is
So
yeah, that's fine.
Hmm.
So I'm just saying that so that becomes the kind of what you call
Sure.
theme park, like
Uh-huh.
Nolan's theme park
Understood.
film. You can treat Tenet as. That's why I enjoyed Tenet.
Hmm.
So Odyssey for me is down with Dunkirk as bottom tier Nolan, just because it is spectacle at the cost of emotion at every single turn. I feel like I have a certain connection to the source material because I grew up on a lot of Greek myth retelling. I grew up on I was not a Harry Potter kid. I was a Percy Jackson kid. Read all the books. Read a lot of I've read a lot of the Greek retellings. I read the two Madeline Miller books, the Song of Achilles and
Circe and Achilles, right?
and
Circe
Circe.
and
Edith
Achilles.
Hamilton. Edith
Yeah.
Hamilton. Bhagwan.
Yeah, Edith Hamilton, Mary Renault, then even Stephen Fry has some
Stephen Fry's
amazing
books
work
are great. Yeah, Stephen Fry's books are really great.
on Greek mythology. So I'm very fond of. I mean, one of my favorite musicals of all time is Hades Town, which is a retelling of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth. I'm also watching Portrait of a Lady on Fire the other day, which also has the whole thing. But anyways, so I have a certain attachment to the source material, and I was utterly dissatisfied with Nolan's treatment of it, not because it quote unquote wasn't faithful. I don't care about faithfulness. I think he just doesn't do anything interesting enough with the text. Like he's pushing certain things a lot, which are which don't go too far and then faithful too much on the other end. So it becomes, as you say in Hindi, na ghar ka na ghat ka, neither here nor there. And I think because of that, I was just never able to buy into the film. So for me, everything else that Nolan has done, wherever my liking of that concept in itself be, say spectacle be, I think Nolan has made me really engrossed in his work. I think he's an incredibly engaging filmmaker, and that's what has always like surprised me because it can be like even like Tenet, which is a kind of film that I likely wouldn't like generally, but something about it just makes it work. With Dunkirk and with Odyssey in particular, it's just that I'm never able to buy into the text, so I am a viewer. I'm a distant spectator. I'm not a viewer of the film. Yeah.
Can I ask you one brief question before moving to Amartya
Sure.
and then Arjun? And then we will start our discussion on the Odyssey.
Of course.
But so I would just like to ask, because you said Dunkirk, you still think is, do you think because Odyssey tries at least to have a central character and then sort of swivel around him, is why you sort of prefer that to Dunkirk? Because I think Dunkirk doesn't try that only. Like it's the rare film, I would say, which doesn't even attempt sort of central character, central all this
Sure.
thing, because it's going for a sort of everyone is a protagonist approach more than anything else. And this sort of event takes over the people, and then the people are literally just surviving through it. So
Sure. I mean, yes and no in that. To me, the structure of the Odyssey is definitely more appealing than the structure
Okay.
of Dunkirk. But I think I like/dislike/feel about the same for both
okay,
because
okay,
they're
good.
fundamentally broken to me in the exact same way. So
Sure.
I would say they're both the same kind of. I have no engagement in the story. I've not bought into it. I'm just witnessing it, and it's
Sure.
over, and then I'm done with it, kind of a thing.
Sure. Amazing. Amartya. Disagreement you can do later. Please just talk about your sort of thingy.
No, I'm just thinking where to get into this. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
I think my introduction, like gateway to Nolan, was always because I grew up with. I think one of the reasons why I was very interested in the Odyssey is also one of the reasons why I'm interested in most of what we call as populist stories, because the stories of both myths as well as comic book tales, sci-fi tales, fantasy tales was something that I had grown up with. So my introduction to Nolan was unsurprisingly the Batman movies,
Mhm.
because I think I saw the first Nolan movie that I ever remember seeing was The Dark Knight. So, and unsurprisingly, each and every time that I had seen a Nolan movie, uh, succeeding Nolan movie or previous Nolan movie, something about The Dark Knight always brought me back, because it's like I am growing up and I am also recognizing what he was doing in The Dark Knight, which is again one of the reason. And through that, I was also recognizing what editing actually looks like if somebody is using editing for, as Hemant said, for propulsion.
Hmm.
But it's also apparently, according to me, how to treat a hero in a very quote unquote grounded realistic fashion without going towards the entirely opposite end, like say Zack Snyder does, which is very divisive to a lot of
Oh.
people, which is very
As in,
divisive to
like,
a lot.
when Zack Snyder goes all style, right?
All style, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
His version is like he is moving towards a sense of hyper realism,
Sure.
which again Snyder goes the entire opposite way. Matt Reeves feels like he's building off of that. It gets the point across. And so, and after that, when I started to go through his filmography, I realized that there is one commonality throughout his storytelling that is always there, and that is time, and through time, non-linearity. He's very interested in the non-linearity of screenwriting. He's very interested in compressing, decompressing, how to ensure that you can control time in a way, which it's very fascinating. I think
Yeah.
even following has a linear cut
Yeah.
which is available. So it's like the following noir version, the one which we are familiar with, is non-linear, but there is also a linear cut to it.
Yeah.
And I think that treatment, that non-linear storytelling, can also be, helpful in adding bits of story or removing bits of story or utilizing strange forms of storytelling through music or through editing. I think that is attractive to him almost on a fundamental level. And as more and more of his filmography moves forward, like, I think it reaches its peak in a way in The Dark Knight, in Memento, in Dark Knight, in Inception to a certain degree. I think after a point it becomes a crutch. His time element becomes
You
a
mean
crutch
the
also.
the structure, the sort of
The
fascination with time, sort of everything.
the
Yeah.
fascination with time becomes a crutch, because it's almost like, and I do not like Tenet at all. I think what his intention was to make essentially a version of encapsulation of his entire filmography, of his obsession with time within Tenet, but also within his treatment of hyper realistic genre tale that he was very much interested in. Batman,
His
Dark
James
Knight,
Bond, right? Was that the whole
it's
pitch
essentially his
of?
treatment of James
Yeah.
Bond, but
Yeah.
he became so invested in the mechanics of it that he forgot to put heart on it. And the problem was, as much as I would like to enjoy the mechanics of it, the fact of the matter is, if a movie is telling me to don't think about it, feel it, I'm not going to feel it. You are telling me to feel it. It doesn't work in that way.
सर
You
दिल में आती है सर
I
दिमाग में
knew
नहीं
it. I
हाँ,
पड़ती
knew
मैं
है
it.
सलमान
I
खान का
knew
भी नहीं,
it.
मैं सलमान खान का भी नहीं सुनता, मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ अब इस
उसका
बारे में?
सुनना भी नहीं चाहिए.
हाँ,
ठीक
exactly.
है. हाँ.
No, but the idea being that Tenet was supposed to be an encapsulation, because it is everything. It almost felt like a sequel to Inception. It
Yeah.
almost felt like a sequel to almost everything, and
Yeah.
it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
and it becomes like a sort of crutch. So when that sort of thing happens, what I believe he does is he goes through his obsession with time. He believes that he has made a statement of that obsession with time. He fails at that, and now he goes back to the source. I think the Odyssey is the source of non-linear storytelling. It is, because it is one of the first pieces of non-linear storytelling ever written. He goes back to the source and he tries to make his version of the Odyssey, which is also his version of a hero's journey, returning back from the war.
Yeah.
I think I was more surprised to see how contemporary, like, in reviews of the Odyssey, you hear that it is a very modern take. Statements like that are very, very, very baffling to me, and statements like that are almost make me allergic, because most critics are like, this is a very modern take, and I'm like, please no. But please no, don't do that. But in scenarios of Odyssey, at least in this case, the fact of the matter is what Nolan's version of modern take is essentially what Nolan's version of what humanity's perceiving of actual events of actual human psyche actually feels like in the modern day, and the idea to imprint that in a story as old and yet as universal as the Odyssey is frankly foolhardy and yet ambitious. It is very foolhardy, it is very ambitious, and I was more shocked that he goes part way, right? He doesn't go too hyper realistic. He is dealing with all of the godliness and all of the supernatural, but he's also not going full total realism. He's going exactly part way, and I'm more impressed that it actually works. And
Yeah,
I think
that's fair.
that's the biggest takeaway for me, is that I was surprised, and I think that's more because, honest to God, you don't doubt Christopher Nolan. People say you don't doubt James Cameron. It's very simple. You do not doubt Christopher Nolan. It's something about how he's filming it, how he's making it, something about his confidence in the editing of it all. Because the choice to put Jennifer Lame, the person who edited Dark Knight, the choice to put that editor again into this, I think
Did
Jennifer.
she? Let
I
me
think
check.
What?
I
I
don't
think.
think
Yeah.
she
I think
edited that.
she joined from
I think she did
later.
Tenet.
Oppenheimer. I think she
From
did
Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer.
100%.
Tenet
It was
onwards, yeah,
Tenet
Tenet
was the
onwards.
Yeah,
first
yeah,
one.
okay.
First
Yeah.
that they collaborate.
It was
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Tenet. Yeah.
So the Tenet Oppenheimer team, I think the choice to put the Tenet and Oppenheimer team into a very classical story structure like the Odyssey, which is also, by the way, part of a genre of movies called the sword and sandal movies, whose entire point of view is all are widescreen shots. All of the shots are supposed to be held for more than 1 or 2 minutes. All of those are like extremely large scale. And to ensure that the editing is more free form, it's almost surprisingly very much, it reminded me sometimes of Nostos in how
Okay.
it is flowing from one point to the next. And it's very, I think it's very funny. I think it's mostly that I was really surprised that how much the Odyssey works. That doesn't mean that it is still his best work. I think it's nowhere near what Dark Knight is. It's nowhere near what Dunkirk is. It's nowhere near what Oppenheimer or Prestige or even Inception is. But it's definitely better than. I am not a massive fan of Interstellar. I don't think it works all the time. I think it's nowhere near as bad as Tenet. I think it's also nowhere near as bad as, say, Dark Knight Rises, which is extremely clunky.
Yeah.
So it's very much like squarely in the middle towards the top.
Sure. Which is, I think,
That's
I'm similar on your
yeah,
page.
yeah.
But Arjun, you are the self-professed Nolan fanboy, so I'm going to leave it to you. And you are also basically doubling as Ashwin's represent also here, I think.
Yeah,
That's
the
two,
Nolan
yeah.
sexuality is
The Nolan
represented
Yeah.
sexuality
on this.
flows through both of you, so yeah.
That's my burden to bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll guess what happened. So I am the Nolan fan here. So Nolan bro, as they call him.
Yeah.
So for me, Odyssey is basically a continuation of Oppenheimer. Where he stopped with Oppenheimer, you basically like you can see this film in two levels, right? Thematic level and a spectacle level. For me, Odyssey works on a thematic level because it is basically he just replaced Robert Oppenheimer with Odysseus character. That's what all that he did in this text for me, because it's like about this great man story, right? So in my Nolan rankings, Prestige comes first, Oppenheimer is second film. I think Oppenheimer is one of his best works. That's something that people often don't agree to that, but they like
No,
I
a lot of
see
people
this as a
love
continuation.
Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah, but they don't see
I'm
it as
not
a
one of
one of
them,
his
but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. When in conversations, it's usually like Oppenheimer is like it's considered like recency bias or whatever.
Okay,
People are like, oh,
fine.
let's give it some time to But
Sure,
like
sure.
what Hemant was saying, I think the propulsion meeting the character is where Oppenheimer that happened the most for me.
Sure.
So he's just picked off directly after Oppenheimer with Odyssey. It's like very strange that a filmmaker is able to spot this like character, the great men archetypes that he has in his mind, and he's able to like fix them in these like frame them around these big spectacle stories to just tell a very gloomy story about a man who's like
Yeah.
at
It's
the end of the line.
sorry,
Like
just to briefly interrupt. It's
yeah.
essentially, and I know this is a blasphemous sort of thing because everyone here is a Kubrick fan, but it's essentially, except for Varun, I think it's essentially Kubrick you know how Kubrick centered his film around stupid men, essentially, or
Yeah,
men who were subsumed by the narrative itself or the story around
yeah,
them. I think Nolan is doing
Hubris,
that on a sort of
hubris. Yeah.
self-serious level as opposed to a sort
yeah.
of
I think the
comedic
word you're
almost
looking
level.
for, Dhruv, if I may supply it, is he looks at hubristic men.
Sure.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
have a sense of self that
Yeah.
inflates their importance. They are
Yeah.
important to begin with anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like
Based
Supandi
on
is suddenly
status.
thinking
Yeah.
No, I would say
he'll be
something
a
like
Yeah.
scientist.
no, like in a Memento, he's
Did
not
you just
important at
use the
all.
Supandi comparison?
Look, Dhruv is the first offender here for bringing in Dhoom 3. Cris has already brought by.
Sir, but
Doom 3
Supandi?
is
Guys, this is
Doom
not a
3
competition, okay? You can
yeah,
just
and
relax.
Doom 3 is a literal remake
Yeah.
of the Prestige. But
Prestige,
anyway,
right? Yeah. So basically, it's about the great men story, right? Great men who are like, somehow they have everything at their disposal, but somehow they are not happy. They find this like immense void at the center of their being. So that
yeah.
was Oppenheimer. So for me, it's like Odyssey is just, I was like pleasantly surprised by the end that how did he correlate the Trojan horse being the nuclear bomb from Odyssey, Oppenheimer. It is so surprising that a filmmaker can draw parallels that way because it's the same structure. Like even in the Odyssey, towards the climax, I'm not getting into spoilers. It's just that when he's thinking about the Troy episode, right?
Yes.
It's basically the same scene from Oppenheimer where he's with Einstein, the conversation.
I
It's
am
like
death.
Nolan comes
That
back to
one.
it. Yeah, I'm death.
I
Yeah,
have
destroyer of
whatever it
whatever.
is. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's basically jumps back and comes to it on as a point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd kind of compare it to him looking away from the images of the scenes from Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
So
in
the
Correct.
scene,
Correct.
the best
Yeah.
scene of
But
the
now,
film.
Yeah.
yeah, but now he's supplanted into that.
Yeah.
Sure.
From the
Yeah, I
It's-
think
Manhattan Project
someone
Yeah.
has
into
mentioned this
Japan.
that what if this is the
The Trojan horse is also burning in the middle.
yes.
Yeah.
It's a broken
Yeah.
down the middle.
It's
Flames are coming
basically
out. Yeah.
about men who went about their made something and they are living to regret that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But when you tell that to someone, it does not sound like the story of Odyssey because Odyssey is generally considered to be like very, very fun-loving, journey of a king who's like very like clever, smart. He knows to seduce women. He's like a very like he behaves according to situation. He's like a very crafty fellow. But in Nolan's version, he becomes the great man who's lost at sea with his men. So it's basically like an opportunity for Nolan to dig back into his themes. So for
Yeah.
me, Odyssey works at a thematic level. But as a spectacle, I think it's too rushed because he has too much information to pack in there. So he's like trying to get everything there with at least the highlights because it's like a Spark Notes version of the Odyssey because I've not read the text, so I'm going strictly by the shows and TV films that I watched from the past. But so when you're speaking about Tenet, I think Tenet is like higher on my list. I think it's fourth on my list.
Wow.
Odyssey comes at third place. So Prestige, Oppenheimer,
Oh, so
Tenet, and like
you're totally like it's like there's a post
Inverse.
Nolan after okay yeah,
Yeah,
sure, got
I
it.
think it's a breaking point, right? After Tenet, he just goes like berserk because till that point, at least,
This is a
it was
very
like the
auteur thing actually.
Auteur,
like you're an
auteur, yeah.
purist, like
Yeah.
auteur goes mental. I'm like, no, the
Yeah.
auteur needs to like rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, it's not raining it in. So I'll just wrap it up. I'll wrap it up
Yes,
from here.
please.
So this is like for me a thematic continuation to Oppenheimer. I didn't hear anyone address that. I think maybe like we'll be getting
No, we
into
have-
the
I
deeper aspects of it.
A little bit.
I would have talked about it in the spoiler anyway.
हाँ,
because
कोई
it-
बात नहीं,
Yeah,
ठीक
sure,
है,
sure,
we'll-
sure.
we'll expand upon
So
it.
he uses the same screenwriting structure. It's just that
Yeah.
here the spectacle, because the character is not like strong enough, the interiority is not built up enough to hold the film
Okay.
together, in my opinion,
Sure.
at least. Because the ideas are very good. It's like the end of the world scenario. It's like I think it's Nolan's most like cynical film in a
This
long
one?
while. Because this one, yeah,
Really?
because he does
Okay.
not see any hope. Like Tenet also has that quality. Oppenheimer too has that quality, but I think in a long while it's not been so cynical. Like okay, what is civilization? What are the cornerstones of civilization? What are we leaving behind for the kids? Like in a current sense, he's trying to Trojan horse in. Sorry for the pun. Many themes that are in the
Nice.
film. So that's something that I found very interesting. So that's fine.
Perfect. We move on. This has essentially become the first part of the episode. Now we basically run through the Odyssey. We don't do
This
any
is what
demarcations.
I actually had to Google this. It's called
Just like the film does, but sure.
yeah,
Oh.
in media res. It's in media res. We have, like in have you like in have
Yes,
you
yes,
ever had
we-
to like go through Hanuman Chalisa ever, where in the beginning he does Shri, all that. What is in the beginning? Shri Guru that part.
Yeah,
Starts
yeah,
writing
yeah.
those.
Before you arrive at
That-
Hanuman Gyanu Guna.
Yeah, so that's
Uh-huh.
all. That whole bit is actually the evocation of all the poets and all the gods that actually one god for literature, one god for poetry, one god for song.
Ah.
Okay, and the same thing is done by Homer. And
Homer
he
does it. Homer does it in Iliad as well as Odyssey. He
as well
evokes
as
the muse all
Odyssey.
the time. Yeah, he
Yeah,
evokes
you
the muse.
invoke the muse exactly, and
Evoke the
and
muse,
that
yeah.
and then he starts in media res on both stories, Iliad
Sure.
and Odyssey.
Okay, can I just put
This is where we are.
slight bit of context here, just slight.
Also, we are now discussing the Odyssey in spoilers. So for people who haven't seen it, please, if you're still hanging around, which I don't know why you would be.
Slight bit of context here. Okay.
Yeah.
Homer as first of all, we don't know who Homer is, whether it's a he or whether it's a they, and it's not pronouns.
was a
Chris,
lot
it's
of
just
contempt
singular
in
and
that.
plural. It's not
Yeah.
it's singular and plural. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. It's not the pronoun.
That wasn't Amartya being envy-phobic.
Yeah, I was like, that's
Necessarily
quite
not him.
contemptuous. I was like,
No,
relax.
there's a whole this thing about Homer being a woman as well. It's a very, very funny story. This one guy, it's this one guy who thinks Homer could have never been a guy. It's
Also, my thing is that what we need to understand is Odyssey was written down 3000 years ago. Iliad was written down 3000 years ago. The stories have been around for much longer because these were all oral traditions. Also, the Homer's Iliad and Odyssey is essentially second part and fifth part of a 8-part book cycle called the epic cycle, in which all the rest of the books, none of those exist. They are not found, they are lost media. It's essentially all those books, they exist within vases, within diagrams, within fragments, within summaries. There are scholars who are trying to reconstruct all those stories and trying to make sure that we get a complete and total full 8-part epic cycle kind of a thingy. That is the basic idea. So when Hemant says we are jumping in medias res, I am telling you we are not actually jumping in medias res. We are essentially jumping in midpoint of a
Entire
utter
series.
hiatus.
Yeah.
Midpoint of an entire series only,
Sure.
and we have to figure it out as we
But
go
this
along.
is like catnip for Nolan, huh? He's like like confusion to usko he loves only. So he's like, just
He
like,
loves
yeah,
only
let's
this thing.
just yeah.
Also interestingly, the Trojan horse not in the Iliad.
Yeah.
Trojan
Not
horse is
He's taken it from a lot of different sort of sources,
Trojan
right?
horse
it's
is in a
also
book called
inspired by the Aeneid.
Trojan horse is in a book called Iliu Persis, which basically means the sacking of Troy. Okay,
Yeah.
and Trojan horse's building is in another
Sacking
book
of
called...
Troy. Why does this sound like a football manager thing? Anyways.
Arey, sacking
No,
matlab
the
robbing,
sacking
sir.
because you sacked. no?
Robbing, sir.
Rob.
Robbing
Acha,
and destroying
robbing,
Troy.
right.
Rob,
Okay.
pillage.
Again, I'm the
take
illiterate,
over,
so you need to
basically.
explain
And
this all to me,
also,
right? So, yeah.
and also, the Trojan horse building is in another book called the Little Iliad, which is essentially telling us that I don't remember who actually made the Trojan horse. I think it was one of the sons of Athena, but Odysseus planned it, and that's how they built it. That's the idea essentially. And the part of Sinon in the movie, that is in Little Iliad. None of the Trojan horse shit is in the Iliad. Trojan horse is barely mentioned in the Odyssey, barely in the
Interesting.
book.
So
It's
I
barely
guess
mentioned.
this is a good contextualization in the sense that adaptation is free formed. So if you are looking for sort of like very sincere sticking to what it was doing and all that, I would just say fuck off. But I guess I shouldn't. No, I
That
mean I'm
means
just like
translate, go read.
Translate
not
is go
good.
read,
No,
or even
but
not go read, because
I'm just like-
Iliad
I'm
and
just like-
Odyssey you cannot like. If you
there's
are going
different variations that have been
Yeah.
interpreted also differently, right?
No,
That's
sir,
the
the
thing.
No, and this
fundamentally, the
exists
point
across
is-
cultures.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
The point is there is no the Odyssey.
Yes.
Is kind of the point, right? Because first of all, it's
It's
written
like,
down 3,000 years
is this
ago.
like Christopher Nolan's Odyssey rather than?
No,
Yes,
I'm
This is
saying
most
exactly-
definitely.
No.
This is
This
is
most
most
Christopher Nolan's
definitely
Odyssey. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm saying the Odyssey itself, especially to us in the English speaking or to English speaking individuals or anyone who can't read ancient Greek, we only have translations of the text.
Yes.
And there's a whole entire academic discourse on what does it mean to translate the text itself. So every time we have an Odyssey, there is not even like the Odyssey A, like you can say there is, the Wuthering Heights that you can, that you can adapt. There is no
Oh God.
there is
Man,
no
No, I
yeah.
was I was I was going more for what I was going for was when you adapt something like the Ramayana,
I
you
know
can
where I'm going.
adapt Valmiki's Ramayana. You can also be adapting the Ramcharitmanas. But this problem will not exist with something like the Mahabharata, which is definitively written by Ved Vyas and
Yes.
Ganesh, and who's but even there, because again India is an oral culture mostly in terms of storytelling, variations. So people have a different idea of. There's a great painting by Raja Ravi Verma. It's called Jatayu Vadham. So a lot of people have used that painting to figure out the geography of the Ramayana. So they're saying, oh, those are the Vindhyas. It's basically the abduction of Sita and the killing of Jatayu. And Ravan's basically like ripped. He's like Matt Damon in the Odyssey. And he's not presented as the demonic king that, popular culture imagines him as. But you see these rolling hills at the base of the painting. It's that horizon discussion from the Fablemans, if you want to,
Amazing,
get
yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
So people use these touch points to figure out where the story is taking place, but Thailand will have its own interpretation. The south of India, the many parts of the south of India will have different interpretations. Nepal has a different interpretation. Eastern UP will have a different interpretation. So you are never going to have a definitive thing, and that's why I suppose in a country like India we keep squabbling over these things, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in Western intellectual culture, the explicit understanding is now that there are these multiple iterations and that you
Yeah.
pick and choose. The
Yeah,
idea
it's like
of definitive
Even
translation
like you
is
said, yeah. Like you said
it's
about
is
the
like
only
it's like you
recent.
can
geographical
choose. Yeah,
locations.
it's like you can choose. It's like you can choose whether you want to read the academic version, that is
Yeah.
Lombardo's translation, or you can choose to read Fegel's translation, or you can choose Emily
Yeah.
Vincent's
Or
translation.
like, for
Yeah.
instance,
Even
in the
even the
Ramayana's case, they talk
gods.
about the Sarayu, the
Yeah,
river.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
where do you place the Sarayu? Is it talking about the Sarayu as we understand it today, or is it talking about the Sarayu as it was understood then?
then
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
Whatever, X thousand years ago.
Yeah.
Names change, places, it's all of
Yeah.
that comes
To
into play.
add to this translation debate, right? So I was listening to Daniel Mendelsohn and Emily Wilson, both who translated the Odyssey.
oh yeah,
So
that
for them,
podcast just came out, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So for them, the material that Nolan has delivered is like not at all like what they had in mind. For them, this is like a foreign, they think that Nolan has somehow like diluted the text by making this about this person, the great man, archetype again. We're coming back to that. So for them, it's just that where's the fun? Where's the big spectacle in the Odyssey? It's like very much rushed and everything is like condensed to fit a particular runtime. So as far as they're concerned, Odysseus is not this. The character that Nolan has devised is strictly a Christopher Nolan version of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
It's not like a universally accepted text for them because they think that Nolan has smuggled in his own obsessions and ideas about that text in a way which connects with popular culture because that's the
I
foundation
kind
of his filmography.
I
So
kinda
with each film, yeah,
I
yeah,
kinda agree with them, but I don't think that's an entirely bad thing because
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Odyssey.
there's no good and bad thing, right? It's
That's
everything is an iteration. So yeah, so that's the basic thing. So you can do a filmmaker should inject his own identity to the material, right? You can't just iterate the same thing again and again.
I mean, if you
Like over
want
generations, it will
fidelity,
keep on changing. Yeah,
if you want fidelity, then you can watch Dune, which I know there are fans of it, but Dune Part One is like almost to me like boringly literal in a sense where I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't want to. The illiterate doesn't want a film to be boring.
yeah,
Because he doesn't want the book to be transplanted onto the screen. You need the cinematic translation. To me, in is not good enough, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Then we have the David Lynch version of Dune, right?
David
That's
Lynch
a
version of
campy
Dune, which
adjacent
is another
version.
different
Yeah,
sort
so
of
these
thing
are
to
like
it.
Yeah, with
creator
space
based.
worms, with space worms.
Anyways,
So
Hemant, yeah.
like Varun had touched on the geographical locations. There's a huge like only after watching the movie I was like, oh, okay, I can look up where was all this. There is a whole community just trying to figure out, not just with the Odyssey, with all the Greek mythology, because at the time there is no Greece. like it was all Macedonia, Mycenae, all these like different tribes that were
Multiple
all
islands, essentially.
islands and even mainland that
Yeah.
was that were all having settlers coming in from the east or from the south. So their stories, at least from their description of it, can actually inform the geography, because the geography is like millions of years old. It's not going to change in like 6,000 years through 3,000 years. So that's the like their in to these mythologies. Like, okay, let's get the geography right, and then let's see how the stories might have panned out, and how the gods that they're thinking about is basically weather and climate that was actually affecting them, and how those monsters could have been just animals that were extinct, and could have been just large animals, or at least to them large animals, that they just didn't know how to explain to them, and to their telling of the story just became bigger and bigger and more exaggerated as time went on, with even with oral
हिंदी में
tradition,
कहते हैं
because
मसाला डालो, हिंदी में कहते हैं मसाला
masala dal ke, yeah. So, and that's where I think the interpretation is also, it's not a crutch, it's something that actually it comes to his aid, because in like now I read like I read Odyssey right before the movie, and then I was listening to like the audiobook with like Stephen Fry to get updated on everything.
Fantastic book.
Great.
Fantastic
Really
audio.
fun. Stephen Fry's characters, I mean, or his like personality is such that he wants you to be excited about it, and that's how he gives you more information that's needed to give you context about it. And he goes into how in the poem itself, or at least the interpretations of the poem to modern Greek, the names change of gods based on where they are going, because there is a latitude over which there are settlers who will pronounce Odysseus' name Ulysses, or they would be calling the gods Venus and Jupiter rather than Zeus and Athena.
It also
So-
changes according to the empires, right? After the Greeks, when
Right.
the Romans come in, the names change because they also run into completely
And there is a part of the story that also touches on the making of Rome, and he gets into that, where Italus and the people who are from the sea in the movie are really the Roman Empire. The Greek civilization is now moving, the power of the world is now moving towards the Roman civilization rather than the Greek civilization. So that's their danger of the changing of the
which
world,
is
and
why-
what is
which is
lost,
why, you know,
when you
Chris-
change civilizations.
Which is why when Chris told, Chris was talking about the Aeneid, you know, the Virgil's Aeneid. Aeneid was written around, I think, couple of centuries later than this, and Aeneid essentially was from the perspective of the Trojans. It was from the perspective of Paris, and it was from the
Yeah.
perspective of the Trojan people, Romulus and Remus, who would escape, and they would later form Rome.
It's
So that is the idea.
Esthus would escape.
Yeah,
he would
Estes would-
avenge,
sorry, yeah.
he would
understood.
escape and then eventually marry again, and then he would not Aegisthus, not Esthus, I misspoke.
Aegisthus,
So he would then give birth to Remus and Romulus, who would eventually make Rome. And their interpretation of the Odyssey is more militaristic. It is more of how to win against a foe which is completely evolved, and that is where to them the Trojan horse is a means of a human ingenuity rather than a
Capriciousness, treachery,
A cheat code,
capriciousness, treacherousness to someone and breaking their trust.
Yeah.
and
Also,
breaking the
interestingly,
Zeus's
Aeneid.
law.
Also, interestingly, Aeneid was the first time that the scholars actually realized, oh, wait, there was an actual thing like a Trojan horse.
Sure.
Aeneid was the first time they realized that, because
Got
there
it.
were no other sources in the
Yeah.
middle.
And another thing that they actually never really touch on was that Odysseus and Ithaca, they didn't describe the island in a well enough way that they could say that how is he so good with wood, because he was a great carpenter. And how did he make the horse? Because he was a great carpenter. How can he like bow a string string a bow so easily? Because he knows the wood well enough to flex it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of character that he never gets. He gets the character defined on how others see him, and that's the interpretation of the story is interpretation of the Odyssey story and from other people's eyes. That's why this whole in media res happens in the middle point of Telemachus and Penelope's conversation, where they're like, where would this man be, and who would this man be, and that goes back to Odyssey's
To
story.
Cyclops. I was saying the
No, to
Charlie Theron character who's
Calypso.
Calypso. Yeah.
Calypso.
Yeah.
And the Calypsos, another thing that was lost in that would have greatly helped the speech that Penelope made on how she was the king, and she just needed Odysseus to be the king, so that her efforts are actually mean something. The result of it means something. It was the Calypso's speech to Hermes when he comes after Athena finally convinces Zeus that her favorite hero Odysseus is suffering with Calypso, and he really needs her to let go of him. And because Zeus says it, Hermes goes and asks Calypso to let go of him, and that's the reason why she says stop doing
Also
this.
interestingly, but there is a criticism of this movie that I think Brody makes, that I think even I agree to a certain extent. Okay? The removal of the gods as anthropomorphized beings essentially robs it of a whimsy, because what the Iliad and the Odyssey are essentially showing you that the gods are petty AF. Okay, the
I
gods.
mean, literally, the opening of the Odyssey is the fact that
Wait a
Odysseus
second.
was able to escape Calypso's island because Poseidon was visiting the Ethiopians. He was
Yes.
basically on TY duty, so he wasn't paying attention to Odysseus.
He wasn't paying attention, इसलिए वो निकल गया. So the idea is.
One second. I wanted to ask: have we moved on to discussing the Odyssey, because we were doing a lot of
Yes.
contextualization
Yeah, we are
here.
discussing the Odyssey. Yeah, we are.
So I need all this information because मुझे chapter revisions भी डालने होते हैं. So इसलिए
ठीक
I'm
है.
asking.
No, we
So
are.
this can be non-linear. We started. And
No,
talked
we
about-
can't be non-linear,
No, so back,
sir.
No, so I have a bit
But
of
this is a Nolan movie ka discussion. We are going on.
I am sorry, our form will not match his content. So
no, I have a bit of the sort of transition
Are you
from
doing
that into the
contextualization?
film
आप
itself.
आप बोलो.
Yeah. No, so I think for me, the fundamental problem, and I come back to it in two ways. One is Dhruv, you saying that this text is catnip for Nolan. And what Arjun was saying with like Emily Wilson's disagreement with Nolan's take on it, right? And there's a lot of criticism of Wilson, which is plain on misogyny, which I don't want to engage with at all. But fundamentally, I think why I have a problem with this film is because I don't know why Nolan is adapting this film, even though it should be obvious why Nolan is adapting this film, right? Because from on paper, you have got the non-linear story and the whatever, the hero's journey, etc., etc.
self-deception.
wanting to go back home.
Self-deception.
Yeah.
Wanting
great
all of
man.
that is there.
Great man
But,
narrative.
for example, but all of the creative liberties that he takes, to me, fundamentally robs the Odyssey of whatever it is that you can vaguely say constitutes the Odyssey, to a point where I'm like, why are you bothering with this story? Just use this template to tell another story that you've always been doing. For
Dark Knight
example,
Rises.
yeah, Dark Knight Rises. Like for me, like fundamentally, for example, the film itself, it takes a very post-Christ messianic idea of the hero, which is not the same as the Greek idea of the hero, which fundamentally compromises the film, because then Odysseus to me lacks a character. He's not a person. He's a representation of this great man, which is not how the Greeks thought of the hero.
Is he a
That's like
great
one part.
man?
I think that is how the
So,
film treats
yeah,
If he's
that's how the
competent
film
enough,
treats him.
He's
For the
the
Greeks,
great man.
Yeah, that's
And
the
it's-
the
He's
stereotype,
talked,
right? Yeah.
I think, sorry to button. Just one simple point so that, and then you can go ahead, Chris, of course.
Yeah.
And Arjun, if you have counters also. I think there's an idea of him as a great man versus he is a great man. And I think the fact that the narratives of him as a great man are not told by him but by others is a big thing. To me, that's where the structural, so the way in which the narrative moves from a character speaking about him and then moving to a depiction of that, versus when he speaks about himself and then moving to a depiction of that, there's a conflict there, I think, which is the point of the film, at least to me. That's myth, reality is the two sort of
So
things
that's
which
how
sort of
a great
conflict.
man narrative functions. Think
Yes.
of, I mean,
Citizen Kane.
yeah, think
Yeah,
of I'm
everything,
also saying,
everything.
like, if you
Yeah.
want another perspective on it, it would be something like what Rand does, right? Rand has it the other way around, where everyone talks about how horrible Howard Roark is, or for example, in The Fountainhead, he doesn't say anything about himself, but at the end of the day, the narrative itself positions him as the great man, right?
Yes.
Roark thinks of himself as just a principled guy. He doesn't have to think or doesn't say of self. So for me, it's a compromised interpretation of the text, because it's, instead of, like I was saying, is instead of finding resonances between the template that Nolan has always used and the Odyssey to tell Odyssey in his way, he is forcefully retrofitting or fitting the Odyssey into his template.
His template, yeah.
It's compromising without. That's why I'm saying it doesn't bring anything new to it, because it's not Nolan's take on it. It's Nolan has a take and then he's just fitting the Odyssey's characters into it to tell his own story, which to me fundamentally deprives the fact that it's the Odyssey. I find it very, I don't know, misleading, or however you want to say it, which is why it never works for me, right? Like the feminism point which Arti brought up, I could not disagree with more, because I have a problem with a lot of these quote unquote retellings, think Madeline Miller and others, who try to do this kind of liberal feminist take on these myths, which instead of understanding the ways in which these female characters, for example, asserted their own agency within the context of these historical settings, put in modern political understandings of what it means to be a feminist or what it means to be a strong woman into these texts. I don't think you need Penelope to say, "Oh, I would have been king if I had, it's were it not for the hair on my
I'm
chin."
with you on this.
Yeah.
I didn't like Anne Hathaway in that mode at all.
Yeah,
So,
she is asserting her agency and her skill and tact by fending these suitors away and keeping Ithaca alive as it is for the 4 years that they are there. You don't need to make her feminist. She is a character, a woman character who asserts her agency in a very valid way. That is, I think there is this idea that you are speaking for them where they couldn't speak. I think you're speaking over them. I think that is one problem with, like, that's why I'm saying that constantly Nolan is trying to speak over the Odyssey instead of speaking of it or with it, and that is why to me it's a very compromised interpretation of the text, and that's where the kind of interpretation debate I'm interested in, but I think I fundamentally think it doesn't matter at all, because that it's not a good faith or at least kind of take on it. It is Nolan trying to wrestle with it or fight against it almost, than work with it.
I'll just add one point to what Chris is saying. Okay, this is actually true, because in the real Odyssey, right, Odysseus is not a good person. He's not faithful to his wife. He's like, a selfish person he just needs to survive. That's his main motto, right? But in Nolan's version, when Calypso's
He's also
interaction with
funny.
Odyssey, he's funny.
also
Yeah, he's
funny.
funny, and he's
Very funny.
still he's like, he uses his brains to get out of prob situations. So that's the character in the Greek text, right? So what Nolan does is, like, with the interaction with Calypso, he almost makes it like he's the noble one, because Calypso had him trapped there. But in real Odyssey, it's just that it was a mutual thing. He had something to get out of that interaction with her. But in this version, it's just that. So it takes away Matt Damon's agency to make him like a straitjacket hero. It's like a very, like, straight person's version of, okay, this is a guy who has been, wronged at every turn. These ladies are, seducing him. Nothing is his fault.
okay,
He's getting into situations.
I didn't think this
Yeah.
at all. So
So that's
I'll
that's
counter
the
this,
text.
but,
Yeah. So even in the Cersei interaction, right, you can see that Matt Damon is like, made out to be this like very noble sort of an interaction. But in the text, I think he spends a year with Cersei, if I'm not wrong. I've not read the text, so I'm going by this thing.
Yeah, but
So-
Arjun, I never felt that the film was portraying him as noble. I just thought,
Yeah.
rather than portraying him as a philanderer and sort of, being,
Yeah.
which is a Nolan thing, of course, he's
But the
sexless and
self-aware,
whatnot. No,
yeah,
but,
the self-awareness is there. He knows that he's the only one who knows that what he's doing is wrong. So that absolves him of the character that is Odysseus in the text, right?
Sure, I'm
So
just
that
saying
makes him a more self-aware, self-reflexive person
he's
who is aware that, he's
Sorry,
at the
sorry.
center of this whole thing. Yeah, sorry, yeah. So
No, I think,
that what Chris said does make sense, because Nolan just strips him of the character and retrofits whatever themes that he's working on into Odysseus so that he can connect the dots, basically.
Sure,
That's
I
what Nolan
don't
is trying to do here.
I don't
Yeah,
disagree
sorry,
with
yeah, go
that.
ahead.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, and Varun, first you say, actually, you had raised your hand. I'll go later.
No, so I was just sort of coming in on that with actually something I felt was lacking in the film, which is a degree of complexity to Odysseus, right? This idea of uh, honor only lying in a man if or a man only being honorable if he is faithful to his wife or vice versa, but in this case let's stick to the man and his wife. He's kind of defeated when you're calling him out on murder, on looking on as people loot and rape on his side of the battle. And I think it makes him more interesting if he is uh, taken by these women, like taken, maybe not the Samantha Morton character, Cersei, because I think Nolan's going for a different register in that scene. But over there also his innocence is kind of hokey because she's calling out the behavior of his men, and it's almost as if he's thinking about it for the first time, which is still, I suppose, fine. If you say that uh, he is thinking about it for the first time, if that's the concession you're making, I still feel it needs something more to it. And while I think Nolan is pretty sexless, I don't think he's got he's got 4 children, so obviously not in life, but in his cinema certainly he appears to be bereft of that, except for the bit in Oppenheimer, which is interesting because obviously he couldn't deny that Robert Oppenheimer was cheating on his wife. I think over here it would have added more to Odysseus' character to have him. Come on, you cast Charlize Theron as Calypso, and you're telling me this guy who is supposed to be in the canon a philanderer is just hanging around. I think it's just, you need to embrace, even if you're doing a populist broad epic, I think you need to embrace certain level of complexity to it. Like I this is a very left of field example.
What a shock.
I think Indiana Jones somewhere does wrestle with the idea that he's a grave robber. It does not address it explicitly in the film, but it leaves that idea there. Is he an archaeologist? Is he a grave robber? What is the difference if it's all going to go to a museum in America far away from its own homeland? I think if that level of consideration can be brought to what is self-admittedly by Spielberg a B movie, a prestige picture like The Odyssey can also grapple with the idea that this man, look, sex is a biological need. We can always say that all these years he spent, he's not going to go hump a bush, right? Like he's going to go have sex where it is available to him.
He does have sex with Charlize Theron.
Yeah, but that's implied, right? It's not said. The film does not state
implied
that.
doesn't like
It's implied
he
in a
doesn't
way.
need to show it, right? Like I'm just
No,
saying,
it's not about
There
showing.
is something
kinda-
there is something very non-sexual to their dynamic. There's something
Yeah.
romantic to it, but there is that inherent
There
lack of
is a very therapist-client
yeah,
relationship.
Yeah.
there's that erotic is
there's a
missing.
therapist
Yeah,
client
it's
relationship.
devoid of
Yeah,
life, basically.
The Sopranos kind, you know.
Kind
That's
of
what I know, right.
therapist character.
Also
Yeah.
very interesting. Also very interesting, and people are going to kill me for it. Very interesting that the only way that he loses his mind for 7 years is by munching lotuses. Food for
I mean,
thought.
it is fun. It's a quirky detail.
That's an addition, right? That's not in the text, right? That's not in the
No,
text.
that's
right?
it.
No, that's in the
That's
text.
a-
That's in the text.
That's a separate
Lotus
thing, right?
eaters, yeah.
Lotus
No,
eaters.
yeah.
Okay.
No, wait. Okay, I need
Okay. I just need to process that.
I have a okay. What is in the end sequence? He does that thing counter argument to all three, Varun, Cris. And
Okay, you
And
do
Arjun,
do
yeah,
that,
go
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
For Varun, I actually feel like you are thinking that it is what is forgivable versus what is not forgivable in his law of the world. In his world, what are the laws? It is Zeus's law. It is to have a guest, to serve them as much as possible. And what is being broken by Calypso is that she is also gaining something out of it. Because she is also stuck in an island and there's no backstory that's given. It's just that they were very happy for 7 years when he didn't have any memory. So him on his own, when you take away, you know that whole saying, right? Who are you when there is no one around? And
Yeah,
you're
this
taken
sounds like
away?
something in Memento only, he said, but yeah.
Yeah, like But that
That
is
same
what
thing in
he
Dark Knight
was,
also, right?
and that kind of it takes away agency from Odysseus, definitely. But it also explains that if he were not to, if he were just a general in war, in war everything goes right.
Yeah.
That's the person he is, where he's allowing himself to be used by someone and enjoying it.
It's
And
not about you,
also,
no, but I think even in that sequence, there is a definite point made, and I'm pretty sure I remember this, about this whole idea that he is willfully forgetting everything. He is
yes,
willfully
yes.
forgetting about Ithaca. He's willfully forgetting about all this because he is compliant in this whole relationship. Like to me, I don't know. Chris said this
So
before. I think we started talking about him being a sex slave of sorts. I didn't get that impression at all.
no,
So I
not at
never
all.
got that impression. I was like, this is something where the
It's
Calypso has
more like
basically.
a Stockholm. It's more like a Stockholm syndrome kind of a thingy.
Syndrome. Yeah.
No,
It's
not
just
No,
that,
exactly.
it's
The
I
whole
like,
think
retelling.
he's.
No, no. So the
it's
point I
a,
was trying to
yeah.
make that was that in the sequence of things, if you look at it, how he's retelling everything and how he got there, him wanting to get rid of his memory
Yeah.
is to have a sort of memory erasure of his trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
a
that's the
trauma
reason why he
response. It's a
wants to.
response to the
Yeah,
trauma. Yeah.
it's a like a coping mechanism for him
Yeah.
to have the take the lotus flower, and knowing that it's going to affect his
Yeah.
memory, get affected. One thing that was there in the book, that's not in the movie, which would have helped actually reinforce that, was the fact that even the people on the boat, like his soldiers, also have lotus flowers, and there's
Yeah,
a
they
whole
die, no?
island sequence in Phoenicia where he's also again maybe could be a philanderer in that sequence, where there is someone who approaches him, and they also are lotus flower eating people, which is not there. But in this case, that wasn't even needed because they just say it. Again, you don't feel it, but at least if you're talking just story wise, he tries to cover himself. That he says that yes, in the sequence of things, he's his retelling of the giants, the Cyclops, the giants, the underworld, and then coming back, and
Actually,
then
the
the whole
Lestrigonians. Let me
Oh,
clarify,
please.
But anyway,
Lestrigonians,
okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
actually,
Yeah.
so and then he figures out that, and then she gets to know how he got there. She actually didn't know how he got there. She is still practicing Zeus's law to have someone that she does not know. She does not know
Yeah.
the story of, to accept him. All she gets from him is that he needs his memory to be gone, and he needs some sort of comfort, and that's what
She
provides
gains
for him.
from what he wants. I don't know if
Exactly,
that's.
and that's that's
Yes.
another thing that she tells to Hermes
Yeah.
in the text, is that you gods, male gods especially, go to go and like Andromeda, anyone that you want, you can just go and take. But us female gods, we are just like having to just fend for ourselves.
That's
and then
both
be affected
Calypso
by the
and
gods.
Circe, right? Like both of them actually have
And
that
now
sort
I
of
now I
similar.
get to the counter to Chris. Is
Huh.
that is that the whole talking over the text of giving sort of only a speech to everyone who's telling. That's his conscience telling him that he has not actually ever accounted for someone else's life other than his goal of having victory for his king of men, Agamemnon. And or his promise, basically his duty and his principle is the only thing that's guiding any of it. And even in the conversation that he's having with Penelope in the bed and everything, that actually I felt like that was the
I think for a movie that is supposedly trying to be, I think for a movie that is supposedly trying to be standalone, it removes a lot of very essential context out of the way, which is also very character development heavy. Like it removes a
No,
lot of character development context out of the
okay,
situation.
so I
Yeah.
think when you write, like how, like I'll compare now again, sorry, Tarantino with Nolan, is that Tarantino writes a novel first and then makes a screenplay out of it.
Yeah.
Nolan, on the other hand, writes a short story with only what he needs to say first, or has an image or whatever he wants to say first, and then writes a screenplay out of it. And a screenplay is based on what people say and do. It has got nothing to do with the backstory that needs to be told, and the time that you have to say and make them do something in that little bit of time. For that, it makes sense to remove all of those things. The issue is that what's lost in the translation is what the emotional effect he was trying to have
But
is
yeah,
only spoken and stated rather than shown, and you are actually invited to feel on your own.
I think this is mitigated, to me at least. In my favorite sequence is the Cersei sequence only, and
Yes,
to me
yeah,
it's mitigated by the performance, the lack
yeah,
of backstory, the lack of all this. To me, Samantha Morton fills in all the gaps which are there, which are not
yeah.
there in the
Just
writing.
the gravity
But
of her being there. Yeah,
and that version of Cersei, by the way, is
Yeah.
not at all like what you expect, not at all like what you were thinking about from the Odyssey,
Yes.
because that performance is a very like
empathetic,
singular.
right?
It's a singular performance.
Yeah.
It is exactly what it is. Like it, what the movie shows, it is exactly that. That can only exist within
I
a
mean, it
world that
reminded. I
Nolan
told
has
you, it
created.
reminded me of like Oni Baba and Kuroneko, like Japanese text
Oh
in which
yeah, oh
everyone,
yeah.
like samurais,
Oni
exploit
Baba
sort of women.
definitely.
Yeah.
Kuroneko is way more
In the
softer.
beginning,
Oni Baba
it's
definitely. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
Oni Baba
yeah.
definitely.
So that sort of, it doesn't feel like a Nolan sequence, which is the other thing, which was like a
Yeah,
jolt of something. I was like, am I watching this in an IMAX screen with people around me who are like
You know, I
extremely
was like,
uncomfortable?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was like, wait, you can do jump scares. So wait, you can do this. Like this is the gear you have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's body
that
Better
horror
be
basically.
Body
Yeah.
yeah,
horror,
I
full
like
on.
it was very that was very Guillermo del Toro film, like or even to a
David
certain
Cronenberg,
extent
I feel like, in
David
a sense, the sort of
Cronenberg.
Cronenberg.
violence of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is more like he's trying to like for her her enjoyment of it is
Yeah.
shown kind of in a frame rather
Yeah.
than her face, which is
Yeah.
something that I was missing in his movies until like since Prestige. This really
Yeah.
made me think of like, oh, this is him liking this, like
Yeah.
rather than having a
Because
job, like
she's
or having he
singing
has
while
to
not
do
singing but humming a nursery rhyme of
humming.
sorts when
Yeah,
while sort of turning
yeah.
all these men into
That
what
was
they are. So yeah.
I was like wide. There was
Same.
like people ahead of me. I was just wide like
I was
smiling. I was like,
I was
oh,
like,
so
what is
good.
this is amazing. Like this in
Yeah.
a the $250 million film
The,
is the
this
sort of
and
stuff.
the ship breaking away sequence where they're all just like scared, and like the lights are going out. There's like the waves are crashing. And Poseidon is back at his job basically. So
Yeah.
that time these two sequences is where his intensity that actually speaks the word trauma to his brain is what actually is like put across on the screen instead of us just being told in
The
terms
the
of like flashbacks.
said and sort of taking the
Shown.
word for what it is. Yeah.
I think
Bolo, Amartya,
I think
sorry.
we are not touching. I think we are not touching a section because obviously Damon's version is the fat, but there is also a section within in Ithaca and all that stuff, which is where most people's criticism of Holland's performance also lies. Is the Telemachus role, which is I think
Oh,
in
sorry,
the
I forgot to defend Penelope in this.
Huh.
And is that like when she was responding to Telemachus, she's not talking to anyone else. She's talking to Telemachus. Is because of his lack of understanding of Penelope's role in all this.
So
Because
you
Telemachus,
okay? Fine.
it
So
is
it
it
didn't
is
seem
to
like
show that
I felt
he is the one who's immature and
I,
actually
I
not
felt
ready.
more.
okay.
I felt more like I also felt more like which is one of the reasons why I kinda don't agree with you guys' take on that Holland's performance doesn't work. I think it works for me because at the end of the day, this is essentially, even though you're a 20-year-old, this is essentially a kid who has no idea how to navigate except impressions of his dad that has been told by Eumarchus. Eumarchus's version of Odysseus is
Yeah.
what drives him to create an image of his own. It is how he's training, it is how he's moving forward. And it's essentially a version that he is told to inculcate, even though his father hasn't been there for over 18 years now.
Yeah.
And the main difference between him and his mother is the fact that his mother actually remembers the man. He doesn't. So
Does
he
she
has no
remember the
idea.
man? That's the other thing.
She does. No, she does. She does remember the man because every time
She
whatever
embodies what he's doing and what he did
I
and
just
what she is as a
their
person at the
relationship
same
only
time.
I thought was barely there, except for that one scene which I really like, which is the other
no,
one.
but that monologue, like you said about Samantha Morton, the performance fills in a lot of the gaps. I think that monologue of Damon to Hathaway,
Sure.
I think that fills in a lot of the gaps.
Okay.
I think it does fill in a lot of the gap, at least for me, because I
Sure.
felt at that point her response
Yeah.
Like there is a
There is a
fleeting moment
horror.
of yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah.
horror, right? Yeah.
There's a horror, but there's also a fleeting moment of recognition that, oh, this is who is the guy, which
Hmm.
will later come into focus more. But you get the
Hmm.
idea. Again, which also reminds me that uh, the relationship Telemachus has with his father is essentially Telemachus's relationship with an image, relationship
Yeah.
with impression, with an impression of a father that existed rather than a
Yeah.
father he had known.
Hmm.
So it's like the great man narrative through Telemachus's point of view,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
him
Of course.
trying to break through that great man
So
narrative to
you
feel.
think that sort of sparkle in the eye, sort of that sort of impressionable, like the kid-like
Yeah,
wonder for
the
him
kid
works
like
in that
wonder.
sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Sure.
works in that sense fully.
I
Sure.
think it
Okay.
goes two ways. One way of looking at it is that he continues to look at it as a child.
Hmm.
Another thing, and obviously I've not experienced this firsthand, but I've seen it happen around me, is that when people pass away
Hmm.
over time, and they don't need to be like significant people in like the
Hmm.
broader scheme of things, they can be like family members.
Hmm.
People start to have this very rose tinted view of them. The बहुत ही भला आदमी
Yes.
था and that
100%.
kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, fully.
And it's almost like he's already, because
Yeah.
the
He's
loss of his father is
memorialized
almost
him.
permanent, he's memorialized him.
Hmm.
And that is what feeds the picture. And of course, if you go and talk to people who've ever been uh, a parent's subordinates in
Hmm.
any kind of professional equation, or even,
Hmm.
I mean, professional, because we don't live in the kind of world the film's characters live in, right?
Yeah.
They'll only ever tell you
The
great
good
things about
parts,
them.
the great
Nobody
parts.
is ever,
Yeah.
no sane person's ever going to be like, hey, let me tell you how awful your parent is. If they have worked for them at some point
Yeah.
in their life, unless they're like a vindictive ex-employee
Yeah.
and you bump
Clearly
into them
never
on the
been an
street.
employee at IBM at now. Okay.
Ah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
but
Um,
the person who can say that, the flaws of that individual who has passed away is their partner. The
Sure.
one person who can say
that
that,
also goes both ways, but
that
that's
also
why I
goes
think
both ways.
Penelope
Yeah,
serves the man versus the myth purpose
man
Sure.
versus the
over
myth
here,
Okay.
purposefully,
right?
which is why
But
her performance when she's essentially selling out, telling whatever she is, I bought it less as somebody, basically trying to assert herself, and more like a person who is tired of being a representative and just wants to be a
Sure.
human, just wants to be the partner who
Herself,
wants a
yeah.
husband back. Yeah.
She's
I
a figurehead, yeah,
I
Yeah,
sadly.
think
she's
I just think the delivery of that scene and the way she has delivered it sounds so girl boss feminism, hashtag girl boss feminism to me, that it felt like the
yeah,
camera is
I understand
literally
that.
as a sort of, she's speaking to the camera as opposed to Telemachus, is my point, I think.
No,
Which
it's
is why I
it's
think her
also
performance, sorry, Chris, I think her
yeah.
performance works when Amartya is saying, I think behind the sort of, there's the scene with Robert Pattinson also, which is behind, like whatever she's knitting, it's framed
Amazing
from
that
like
camera shot, that
from
camera.
The
behind.
loom,
You know what
yeah.
it reminds me of? You know what it reminded me of? Reminded me of, interestingly, Ray's Company Limited, Shima Bhattho.
Oh yeah, true. Interesting. I never thought of that,
To
but
those
yeah,
windows, to
interesting.
those
Hmm.
little spots
Yeah,
within the designs.
yeah,
Very interesting very interesting shot. And it's
yeah,
also because that veil is the only thing that is stopping her from actually making a choice.
yeah,
She is making the veil and then she's undoing it. That is
yeah,
essentially a cyclical way to stall. That
yeah.
veil is the only thing stopping her
Which
from
is the
making a
same,
choice.
actually, the same thing in that monologue sequence, because she opens the door and she says that, "Get me a suitor, I will marry them," whatever that, like in that
also
particular
also
sequence
that
of it. Yeah,
discussion also that discussion monologue which Damon and Hathaway has, it's within that same,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that same veil only. It's within that same veil only. It's
It's a
very
great device. It's like a good dramatic device only, that that
yeah,
barrier that
fully.
separates and all that and everything. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm
fully.
glad you brought up the suitors though, Dhruv. No, wait, sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
You've not
Sorry.
actually.
No, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just had the one thing is for me also with just about the Hathaway thing. I think the reason why it fundamentally fails for me and that whole feminism problem happens, and it's my biggest problem with the film is the dialogue. The anachronistic
Yeah,
dialogue is an absolute pain, and it is the fundamental reason why I can't buy into the film. And because it's the ghar ka na ghat ka thing. I cannot look at Robert Pattinson in plate armor telling Telemachus or Tom Holland that he's pining for his daddy. that is
They
just
never had.
Come on, with Pattinson, I can
But
buy it
again,
because he's
but
that
again,
slimy.
again,
Yeah,
Chris,
he's
and
a
this is
slimy character.
again,
Yeah.
Chris. That's again, Chris. I'm not again. What I'm trying to say, this statement is not like a injunction towards you or anything like that. But I think one of the reasons I bought into it, or one of the reasons that doesn't bother me that much, is because I have been watching fantasy with anachronistic dialogue ever since
Sure.
2011.
sure, sir.
Yeah,
I am talking
and it's
about
like I'm
the
very I'm
it's
comfortable
different.
because
It's different genre expectations, right?
Hmm.
I'm talking about
exactly.
like this the sword and sandal epic. When I think of that, and again, it's like the whole translation debate, right? Like I couldn't read
Yeah, yeah.
Emily Wilson's translation of the Odyssey because
Oh, hey,
that is
same,
what in my head an epic poem sounds a certain way and it has to look a certain way. It's I'm not saying her translation is invalid. It's just my expectations of it don't square, which is why I prefer the Fagles translation. So that is to me like one of like even like the barrier scene that you guys are talking about for me, and I have to make this comparison. I'm going to try to restrain myself to do it just once. But to me, I've seen this scene done incredibly well in a film
The
called The
Return.
Return by Uberto Pasolini. That screen, you don't even need a physical barrier. Uberto Pasolini does it with the light and shadow of a flame, and there is a certain reckoning that Penelope's character has there through the wonderful Juliette Binoche, which in far little dialogue, far less kind of recounting of everything is able to carry forth all of those emotions while also not having the whole anachronism problem of speak. Like again, it's not. I'm not asking for great changes. You can just say mother and father. I'm like that would change like half my problems. But like the
But
whole
Chris, all dialogue in any of these movies is anachronistic
so
naturally.
that's why I said the genre expectation, right? I'm not saying anachronism is probably the wrong
Also,
way to say it.
I
I'm
think the
saying
one
what's the
way
genre expect like for me, it's like that's why I say the film feels like a play act to me. It
I
doesn't
think
feel like a
one way you
film.
can I think one way you can bypass the expectations is like very simple. It's very basics of a storytelling device only itself. What does the opening sequence tell you about the movie? If the movie is great, the opening sequence should tell you immediately what the movie
Yeah,
is
yeah,
going to be.
yeah.
The opening
I think the
sequence is
opening sequence tells you,
essentially Travis Scott telling me,
yeah.
listen, and I'm like, this is Travis Scott telling this. Okay,
Yeah,
understood.
but sir,
So,
Travis Scott is still in like what is supposed to be Greek or like
Bard,
old
he's a
sir,
bard.
timey
both,
He's a
sir,
robes
bard.
You
both,
Yeah.
want
sir, both,
and
sir, both the Hathaway we have in the
yeah, that's why
same
I'm saying, sir.
thingy. No,
I mean, I mean, this is a me problem because I have a huge love for costume design. There's a scene in which Matt Damon is wearing something that looks like stretch cotton, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on over here. But for me, the problem is that you can't just say that about the dialogue. It's like, what am I looking at? I am looking at what
I mean,
Hollywood
that's
has taught, or
fair, huh?
No,
cinema has
but
taught me is
that's
a sword and sandal epic. Nobody
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like they're in a
yeah.
sword and sandal epic. So
It's
Yes,
that
yes.
a dissonance because
fundamentally
this is
me.
like
Yeah,
fundamentally you are not in the material, so you are not
Huh.
connecting with what's going on. So you're looking for
absolutely.
yeah,
other
yeah.
things because if
I
the
mean, yeah,
material works
you're
on the
buying it
surface
as a
level,
play
you don't.
act.
So,
So
yeah,
yeah, then it's a
Yeah.
you
different
don't
thing
focus
over
on all
there.
these
Yeah.
things, right? If the dialogues are working, the emotion is working, you won't
Then
look
of
at
No, I
all
course
these
your
mean,
things.
brain,
you'd
then
buy
of
it if
course
this
Dialogues
was a
won't matter to
comedy
you.
more. I would
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so
suppose.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the dissonance here.
Totally.
That's the major difference here.
Chris would have bought this. Chris would have bought this actually, and this is. I'm not trying to make a joke here. Chris would have bought this if this was more of a Monty Python like of a tonality.
Probably. Yeah, because it.
Probably.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't
I'm
even
still
need it to be that
firmly
much.
parked
Again,
in that other corner.
I
Sure.
really like The Return, which is a very stripped down, serious
Yeah, but again,
interpretation
again,
of
I
Minimalistic.
the
told you
whole
this
thing.
is just not gonna happen with the Nolan film. It's the
No, again, see,
Yeah.
negotiation
that's not.
between spectacle and
That's
character
not what I'm
which
saying,
is
right?
not there.
Like
Yeah.
that's. I was trying to explain it to you. My favorite, again, one of my favorite interpretations of the Odyssey is Percy Jackson, right? My problem is not anachronism, fidelity to the text,
Yeah.
etc., etc. It's consistency. What I said, and I wrote about this as well, the film is fundamentally incongruent to me because every single creative choice is fighting against some other
Chris,
creative choice.
Chris,
Sure.
just one clarification. Just one
Yeah.
clarification. The Percy Jackson stuff also works because the people who are going through the 12 levels of Hercules or the Odyssey ka journey are modern people going through this modern
Sure.
context.
So again,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying, so that's what I'm saying, right? It's the consistency of the world. So you either do like you do an Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which is you complete,
I
you
was
take the
literally
template,
gonna say that. Yeah.
you throw everything else out of the window, you take the template. My reservations on the film aside, which is more stylistic, I think it's a great interpretation, adaptation, telling, retelling, proper modern retelling of the Odyssey. You take The Return, which is the other round. You take Percy Jackson, which goes somewhere in the middle. To me, the problem is that Nolan's is nowhere. It's neither a complete abandoning of the source material, obviously. It's neither a kind of stripping it down to its fundamentals. On the other hand, because again, the whole Odysseus has like again like a very Christian crisis of faith, which doesn't make any sense when you've got a Cyclops and Charybdis and Scylla. Like those things are not like that is the son of Poseidon. That's how you understand the Cyclops' existence in such a world. The magic system in the film makes no sense. So I'm
Yeah,
saying fundamentally
If we
every
are going
creative
to go
choice
there,
is
if we are going to go
yeah.
there,
yeah.
Lestrygonians are sons of Poseidon also. Nobody knows about that. In the movie Boom
That's
Boolai,
I'm saying that Listrygonians, okay, they're fucking tall people, okay, but like the
they are
Cyclops,
giant
Yeah.
cannibals.
But
Giant
Yeah,
cannibals.
almost
but I
all the
think you guys
monsters are
like there is one
all
thing, right?
monsters come
Yeah.
from the same
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, but it's
yeah.
like it's a means to an end, right? These monsters are not the point. No, it's the
Hmm.
journey that Odyssey takes with the monsters and the
And
obstacles that he
I
faces.
say
I'll just
So if you buy
slightly
into that, then you should, yeah, you should buy
My
into the
I
problem is
total
I'm
thing that
not able
okay,
to buy
this is the
into
buy
thing.
any
into
of it at all,
so
right? Because
Yeah,
it
that's
contradicts
I
each
think that's
other.
a more director problem than more
yeah
than the I think the
Yeah.
film
I
not working for
yeah
you
because
because
to me
director choices is like
because
Yeah,
always
to
like
exactly.
me a
rubbing off.
lot
Yeah.
of the way I was justifying the sort of mystical and magical aspects, whatever little there are to it, is because I took them as a sort of ways in which people were telling these stories to other people as opposed to any other way, like it's
Like a Life of Pi thing, kind of.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
the
I
other
mean,
way around.
because
Yeah, yeah.
everything is a flashback, right? In this, nothing is
Yeah.
a sort of everyone is telling them a tale, and people are seeing that tale that is
So you
being
took
told.
it basically as storytelling. So you took it as a film about
Storytelling.
storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, about storytelling, and then Matt Damon's version of it is where it becomes more to me grounded, real, somber, etc., etc., etc.
Matt Damon
In
is
that one, the
basically
confession
trying to
sequence.
justify, ki, oh my God, look, I had trauma. That's essentially it.
Basically, to me,
Yeah.
I saw it as that because to me, a lot of the film was about one tale being told by one person to another, and then people telling each other tales about all these things which involve magical, mystical beings. But at the end of the day, the emotion that stays with the person who's talked most about is one of deep regret and anxiety and PTSD and whatever you want to say. Yeah.
Then you have to sit with the spectacle. No, like for example, like the Charybdis and Scylla scene is to me than the Listrygonians are baffling scenes to
Those
me
are
because
not
the
great scenes. Yeah, I
Listrygonian
agree.
lasts about like 3 minutes
Yeah.
and basically nothing happens in it.
I,
And and Charybdis and Scylla, Charybdis looks like I was telling Dhruv, it looks like a fucking wave pool at a water park more than like a daunting whirlpool. And
That was
Scylla
how it
just
was designed also, if I'm not mistaken.
it's but that doesn't again if you're trying to say these are stories tell these are representations of trauma, these are not scary, then
nee, I
your
mean,
purpose what the
I
purpose
think
they're supposed to fulfill is
yeah.
not being fulfilled.
I think actually it'll be, I mean, of course, this will never happen, but like it'll be fun if, a director came in and directed, this will never happen, but like if another director came in and directed a sequence about a story. So to me, the issue with some of this is that Nolan lacks that, whatever you were saying, whimsy or mysticism, which makes these particular sequences especially disappointing. And I think there is a fundamental. Amartya began the episode also by saying this whole idea that there's a way in which these sword and sandal films are done, right? There's a way in which
Yeah.
that epicness is foregrounded. And I think two impulses are at odds here. And I think it depends on how much one is able to make peace with that
Connection or
those
justify,
particular
yeah,
impulses.
reconcile
And,
with those.
and I'll kind of bring in a film which has no connection to this, but in a structural way it has. And I know it's a major source of alienation for both Amartya and Varun, which is the French Dispatch, which follows a very similar thing of people telling a story, jumping to that depiction, people telling a story, jumping to that depiction, and within that including more sort of sub stories within it. So we keep on sort of, it's a nestle, like a doll's house of storytelling, and you're sort
Russian
of
doll.
Russian doll, Russian.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially it's going through that, flipping through that angle. So to me, that automatically approach undercuts your epic classicism, stick to one narrative, stick to one shot, like grandeur and everything is undercut by the cut. And to me, that is a fundamental thing in that whole film. And
But
I
Dhruv,
think,
yeah,
yeah, and I think
yeah.
I at least was able to make peace with it on the grounds of the fact that this is essentially a film about a man who is going against grandeur, even though he has to be a participant in it. So to me, it
And
worked at
fate.
that level.
I actually wanted
You
to
mean
make a
basically
comment on
fate?
fate.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also that the fact that that whole sequence felt inevitable. It felt
Yes.
because it felt like he was like like in a trance and just being pushed through that entire sequence because he knew the answers, he knew what's gonna happen, he knew they're gonna die, and he's just not telling them.
Yeah.
And that's what the prophecy that was given to him in
By
the underworld.
Tiresias. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiresias.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it
were
is
saying
about
about French Dispatch, right? Yeah. So
Hmm.
I think the problem is of framing, right? In French
Sure.
Dispatch, it's like layers of framings going on. Here,
Yeah.
there's one point of reference for us.
Hmm.
Odysseus is going on this journey.
Hmm.
So whatever is the culmination of all the things that happens to him is a sort of like reflection. That is the thing that makes him wonder at the end. Okay, he
I get
realizes
that,
that
Arjun.
okay,
I'm saying
that
that
is
in
Nolan's
the
point. So
yeah,
yeah,
but
that's different from framing. Yeah, that's
I'm
what I'm
saying that
trying to say. Yeah,
I'm saying in this, the way Nolan decides to frame that journey is a lot like
yeah,
how it's framed in something like a French Dispatch, where rather than following it, it's about the one person told another person this, let's follow the flashback. Another person told someone else about this, let's follow this flashback. So to me, it's versions of an account. So it's not his thing. It's a lot of people's story about him and then his story about himself.
It's
So
the
to me, it's a,
Sandman.
I mean,
I'm
that I do
sorry,
not know what that
I'm
means.
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
bringing up Gaiman here. Gaiman is
Huh.
persona non grata. I'm very sorry
Yeah.
about that.
non grata now. Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's essentially Sandman.
Hmm.
It's
What
a
does that
story
mean?
about storytelling. It's a story about
Story about
storytelling.
storytelling. Okay, fine.
It's
To me,
essentially that.
that is literally what it struck. So whilst I was watching the Odyssey, I was thinking consistently about all of his films, because to me it became about people telling people about something else, and then sort of Matt Damon deciding to believe in it, not believe in it, as the Odysseus character. Like, I kept on thinking about his other filmography whilst watching it, and I don't mean it in a negative way. I found it invigorating how it worked as a sort of metatextual thing, where it was going through its, like, it was swirling around his entire filmography whilst I was watching it. So my experience was like that. Varun, you
I
had
think one of
lifted
the
your finger, which I
yeah.
interpret as lifting your hand. So yeah.
No, what I was saying was that uh, twice. First time I lost my train of thought because
Hmm.
Chris went off. Um, to me, it is very much a story within a story within a
Hmm.
story. So it's got those
Hmm.
layers going on,
Hmm.
and there's no like. I don't connect it to the Swords and Sandals films. I'll tell you why. Because
Hmm.
we're very far away from the
Hmm.
era of Sword and Sandal epics.
Sure.
Spartacus, Ben-Hur, all these films are at least 60. Dhruv, now they are the films people made, yaar. मैं क्या
No, no,
कहूँ?
no. मैंने Spartacus पे किया था because I think it's
हाँ.
Yeah,
tremendously
I mean,
boring
they're
film.
that was the
65,
format.
70
Jason
years
and
in
the
the past.
Argonauts. Yeah.
Jason and the Argonauts is more of a reference point for
No,
Nolan
I am
also.
to not
No,
a
no, no,
fan
no.
of Sword and Sandals only. So I mean,
Yeah.
not
I'm rooting
like,
it
yeah.
within the Sword and Sandal thing also because I think it's a bit reductive to lump it. I'm not saying
Sure.
anybody here is doing that. I think because they are distinct types of cinema. This is more fantasy, epic kind of space anyway. Once I saw The Giant, I was like, yeah, this is nowhere near like reality. So because I famously slept through the first minute of the film at least as a consequence of Mr. Tom Cruise and the
Oh.
bald-headed Mr. Tommy Cabaret, and it being 4 a.m. and me being 26. So,
Well, Mr. Tom
and
Cruise was the trailer, or what?
the
Did he come
Digger
and
trailer
do
and
some speech again?
no, the Digger
The trailer.
trailer,
No, the
Okay.
bigger trailer. Yeah.
and the Dune 3 trailer played ahead
Okay.
of this film. So, to me, even otherwise, I think the film always felt like it's a bunch of recollections or narrations, like very much like Panchatantra or Hitopadesh, whatever you want to call it. Secondly, the Swords and Sandals films are mostly Roman films.
Hmm.
I would set them apart from Greek epics because Rome just has a completely different vibe going on.
Which I think
Nowadays, you'll
Chris
find
said
Ridley
is the
Scott.
issue also, right? Like, I think there's a transplantation of some of the is it Roman epics, or the mythology of that has been transplanted into sort of this, which was
No,
one of his
but
issues, I think.
I think I slightly disagree here because those peplum movies, Swords and peplums,
Hmm.
like even though they were Romans, many of the Greek stories were also adapted like that only.
Okay.
Like,
Also, it's your closest historical reference. I get that.
Yeah, and also
I
when I
just-
say sword and sandal, I'm not saying I'm saying more as an aesthetic
Aesthetic
feature
choice,
than a
yeah.
No, I
pure
get that
no,
point.
I also get
genre
it. Yeah,
choice. Yeah.
yeah,
I
also
get the
it.
point, but I still see those more as historical pieces
Hmm.
purely because they are trying to do that.
Yeah,
Like
Their
10
ambition
Commandments
is
is
that.
what comes to mind to me for that vibe. It's
Sure.
more
or even
like,
Hercules,
it's not,
or even
yeah,
Hercules, the original Hercules.
yeah, it doesn't
like-
have a it doesn't have a sort of character point of view. Here there is a character point of view. There it is more like a narrative that's being just told you, a plot that's
Like an
being
omniscient
biblical.
narrator is there, no? Like
Biblical
basically,
kind of.
Yeah.
yeah.
Here
Yeah,
it's
like,
more
I mean,
like a
the
character's
closest
kind of
we are probably
experience
is-
of what it's
Yeah.
happening.
So that changes everything, right? So that is the fulcrum around which the film is designed. So that itself is a different structure.
I mean, no, I
As
had
compared to
different
Samsung.
problems with it, and I sort of want to get into those. Is that I get the limitations of IMAX equipment. All right, I am not an engineer and all of that. I accept. I it's a fact. What the hell is there to accept about that? But when you're like, oh, this camera mag only runs 3 minutes, and then you do this choppy editing in so many places, the edit was so choppy. Even though I really enjoyed how immersive the film felt, I was like, I want you to stick, and that's why I think I'm the only one I believe who likes the ending sequence, because at least even if the camera is moving so much, at least it is sticking more. Like on the boat, I hated how much Nolan cut. I was like,
But he
don't
cuts
please,
like
like
this
In the
regularly,
night or
no?
in the daytime?
No,
Was it
but
in the
like,
nighttime or the daytime? In the boat
no, this is the
sequence.
siren sequence.
Siren sequence, daytime
Okay,
only.
yeah,
Yeah.
they do, yeah.
Nighttime,
I'm
I
like,
thought it
don't-
was aesthetically appealing. How much
Yeah,
he
yes.
cut. Yeah.
Yeah, nighttime
I-
was more like chaos ko zyada,
Yeah, yeah.
matlab,
Yeah.
I agree,
prominent.
Dhruv, that this is how he cuts. But if you're telling me that this is the agony of a character,
Sure.
I need to stay with the agony of either
Yeah.
that character or then go to the sirens or then what's happening
Exactly.
to his
Chris is
comrades.
approving very
It-
vigorously.
it
with his
cannot be
facial
this-
expressions.
cocktail of things happening, because you are able to capture the tumult of the environment so well. You need to just, it doesn't even need to be like, you don't need to run the full 3 minutes on something. You can
Yeah.
just
No, actually,
do
I
a
don't
minute.
think that's an excuse for the cutting. That's just a stylistic
Sure.
choice.
Yeah.
Because Nope. I mean, Nope is using IMAX. They're using 3 minutes of film.
Nope has
and
some
they
very
ha-
dodgy. Hoyt had my shot that, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
same
Yeah.
camera.
Some very dodgy
Yeah.
day for night that film has.
That's deliberate. That's a design choice.
Yeah.
Is
This
it?
is,
I think,
yeah.
Look,
I think
yeah.
the problem that Varun states, I agree with Varun. One of the reasons why it doesn't bother me, I think, is because Ludwig's score.
Okay, we've not talked about that.
The
Yeah.
editing is.
Oh, Hemant is
Oh, you
gurning
don't
about
like the
this.
score. I love the score.
Even I love
don't
the
like
score.
I enjoyed it too. I mean,
Yeah.
I have
I
to say.
love
Yeah,
the
good
score.
score.
Yeah, I love
Very
the
low key for a Nolan film, actually. Just pretty like
No, yaar.
The score was,
one of
yeah,
those
Low-key.
compared to what he was
Trojan
doing
horse,
earlier.
when it comes to the first time the Trojan war is happening, it like I thought the speakers will burst, like the drums will
Yeah, as
burst.
per Nolan standards. Nolan standards.
Oh, as
in
per
essence,
Nolan
yeah.
standards.
Even
So-
the
Standards,
sound
yeah.
design, like the scream of
There is.
Polyphemus and all the swords that the giants were using. Like, I mean, that part I like the sound design of the movie a lot. It's just the
you
music.
don't like
Oh
the
my
Actually, you thought it was
God.
too overwhelming?
It was not overwhelming. It didn't have a point. It didn't like.
It was
or
very
even
unmemorable, I think.
It was unmemorable.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I thought it
was.
Interesting. I thought it worked.
There was-
I
yeah.
thought
Also,
it's the
do you
reason
remember-
why the
okay,
thing
yeah.
works. I
Yeah.
thought it's
Do
the
you
reason
remember
why
a
the beat
melody?
works.
Do you remember a
Yeah,
melody?
the
I
opening
do.
is very.
No,
yeah,
but that's not the instrumentation is different. So
But
you
that
can't
with the
recall it that
Dunkirk is
way.
also very hard to
Melodies,
listen to,
yeah.
no?
I
So
If you-
that's
say-
but that's a leitmotif. Like even that
Yeah.
there's no memorable leitmotifs in
Why
the film.
isn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
fluty
Yeah.
thing with Odysseus?
Like
No,
Ithaca is the
Odyssey-
only
Yeah.
one. The
Ithaca
only
only.
one is
Yeah.
Ithaca's
Odysseus ka-
And even
So,
that
I
one,
think
you know
it's-
what
that
it
part.
reminded me of? That reminded me
What?
of the synth from Dune 2. Okay, because you can pull that off.
Hey,
with just
that
also,
score was also
they said
great.
there is.
That score was also great, by the way. Just
It is
putting
great,
out.
sure. I'm saying
Yeah.
that
Hemant is a
for
Dune
this
fan,
story.
sir. Come on.
Yeah, I'm also.
You're a
like,
Denny
even though
also, Denny lover also.
Yeah,
right?
I'm a huge Denny lover. Also,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Hans Zimmer, and that's the only movie that I like of Hans Zimmer's. I don't
Interesting.
like any other movie.
You don't like
ever
any
that
of the
he-
Nolan collabs?
I think my Beautiful Laundrette. What is that?
I thought My Beautiful
Rain Man?
Laundrette Nolan made. Like, no, never
No,
mind.
no.
Dunkirk has a sensational score.
Dunkirk is a
I
great.
felt this is very similar to Dunkirk in terms of the whole.
I mean,
Shepherd
there's a
Stone.
lot of beaches
Shepherd's
and
Stone,
ships also.
Shepherd's
so-
Stone, yeah.
They use that like in 4 sequences here, especially
Okay.
they're trying to open the door. Basically, it's
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
whole,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sequence. And that it happened, and also who first off, okay, anyone knows what an 808 is? Like anyone
Yes.
knows
No.
hip hop?
Yes,
Hip hop,
I do.
I have no
there is
idea
a
what this
808.
means.
The
yep.
that okay,
Okay.
that is the 808 bass,
I
and
still
that's
don't know
there.
what it is.
Or it's okay. We can hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay, this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
infrasonics. This is at 15,000 hertz. Okay, minus
Okay.
So
C.
basically,
If you know piano,
dogs, basically
minus
dogs can
C4.
hear over
Okay?
20,000. Basically,
He
dogs
doesn't,
can hear-
sir. Itni musical.
And this
knowledge nahi
okay,
hai
this
kisi
is what
mein
you
yahan pe.
feel. Okay, all infrasonic stuff and sub stuff you feel. It's vibration.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he kept playing with vibration. This whole movie was all about
Because
vibration.
there was no orchestra he could use or something,
Yeah.
right? That was the whole thing.
And
with
they
it.
use gongs. They use gongs
Okay.
and timpani
Yeah.
to give the effect of sub bass. Okay?
Okay.
But they did like amp it up a little bit.
Sure.
The whole story was just like that. It was all about beating drums, beating things. And
I mean, there
everything.
was a lot of beating drums. Yeah. I did
And-
feel like
and
my chest is going to
I-
start to.
Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on, Hemant. You did not like that very weird, like some Albanian music in the Odysseus' section when he's doing the monologue, the string part. You did not like that section at all?
Though you mean the
Are
harp
you not a
and the-
Ludwig
Yeah, yeah,
Göransson
He
fan?
plucks
Hemant?
the string, right? Yeah, that
Yeah,
moment.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
not a
yeah.
Ludwig Göransson fan?
I actually don't like his music that. I guess Tenet was awesome.
I
loved
think Tenet's music is
Tenet's score.
awesome. So
Awesome.
yeah.
I think
Tenet's music is great.
I think
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, like everyone, it was very catchy. I will say. I will not say it is very like it's not.
Oppenheimer,
like it's a,
I will say,
movie, I don't know.
Oppenheimer, I will say the score isn't that memorable.
It
Oppenheimer
isn't.
for me
There are two themes. Yeah, everyone knows the "Can you hear the music?" and everyone
yeah.
knows the.
It-
pwah.
My conspiracy
it's over
theory
the
is-
movie. Yeah.
My conspiracy theory is that the score of Oppenheimer is unfortunately heavily inspired by the score of First Man by Justin Hurwitz.
Oh, interesting.
And you can
No.
hear this
Not
in
Interesting.
Can You Hear the Music and the Armstrongs, which is the
He
piece.
uses the theremin
Uh,
in First Man.
Yeah, I mean
There
that
is
is
a-
the
there-
Armstrong.
there is a
no,
repetition.
That's
Hemant.
an arpeggio, bro.
No, but no.
That's-
I mean musically,
Musically,
not
it's
the
fine.
instrument. Musically,
Sure.
it feels similar because I mean I'm not saying this as a diss to Ludwig. I love Sinners. I have watched that movie twice, which is as many times as I'll watch a movie.
I guess I don't like Ludwig then. Yeah, I don't like cinema.
Yeah.
I think that's
You don't like Sinners?
You know.
It's the perfect masala movie. I don't
Yeah.
It is a Baza movie. It's a fun movie. I'm saying that the song.
You don't like the
I think you
score.
are not a. I think
There's
you're not a
nothing there.
Goranson fan. I think you're not a Goranson fan.
Yeah, but
I
for
love
Odyssey,
it. I love
Tenet.
Mandalorian.
Tenet,
I
of
love
course.
Mandalorian.
Odyssey-
Mandalorian score is really good.
Actually,
whatever little
it's
is there in
insane.
it.
Like,
Yeah, it was
for
very
the
good score.
Odyssey, right? Nolan's reference was Blade Runner for the soundscape. So I was like, okay, I need to go back and see
Very
what
weird.
is the
Hold on,
echo that
hold
we
on.
find.
Hold on for a
I
second.
think-
If that
I
was the, hold on
think
for a
I
second.
very
If that was
much
the
it
reference,
is-
if that was the reference, he fails because Vangelis' score is something else. If
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was
yeah.
the
since
reference,
The
Since-
soundscape. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, okay, I guess okay. So I think for me the major one with voices and lute and and wind instruments is always going to be Gladiator, because that is
James
and even that duduk that he's using, or I don't know, it's not. It kind of.
By the way, Hemant is our music expert here, so we can all lean in and
He's
listen.
also the composer of QID's music.
Oh yeah, he is. Yes.
Composer.
Composer.
Composer, the
Mixer,
It's very
yeah.
bad. Please, yeah.
Mixer, yeah.
So I sent him one plugin to use because every time Amartya is like here to the mic and here away. I was like, to fix that, I think you need to use a compressor. And that's the only way it'll get fixed. Please use a compressor somewhere. Okay. So I think his whole goal was again. I'm go back to the word propulsion. And having some sort of like the spectacle. He'll announce that there is a spectacle happening.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And almost all the sequence where emotion is happening, it's announced, and that kind of took me out of it a lot.
Which is
And
fair, I think. Yeah, totally. And I think that is
even with-
that is a big crutch he uses. I think which is a very different sort of, because you compare him to a Kubrick or anyone else. A lot of people who his inspirations are actually operate with a lot of restraint in their musical choices. I think compared to him, he's
Like
a
Nicholas
I mean then
Roeg,
again
I
we're
feel-
going back. Sorry,
like
sorry.
no,
Hemant.
Nicholas Rogue's
Rogue.
Yeah.
his treatment, like the visual style of Nolan always like it always like gives me flashback of either Cronenberg,
Don't Look Now.
Rogue, yeah, Don't Look Now, like
Don't Look Now.
heavily with the close-ups and the hands. So and also like
I'm more
I mean,
reminded.
Terrence
I'm
Malick.
more reminded.
I know
I'm
what
more
you mean,
reminded
but
of.
yeah.
Terrence
I'm
Malick,
more
yeah.
reminded at times of Kubrick and Man.
Man,
Nolan.
Man with the
I think it's
editing.
Malick
Yeah.
entirely.
I
The
think Rogue, he has
flashes at least.
Nolan himself has admitted Rogue is a big influence on his visual.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this time.
true, but the way his flow of like his cuts work, like Rogue's cuts work, works well with the style of music of that era,
Yeah.
because it has, and even Cronenberg to an extent, because like Howard Shore's
Cronenberg's
score
become much more clinical, much more sort of
Yeah.
frigid
Yeah.
almost in that sense. Yeah.
and it's tactile because he kind of has like the cuts and the music is always based on what's happening on screen to the people rather than and what the surrounding is like in terms of like if you compare back to Blade Runner 2049 in that
great
when he
movie.
goes back to the when he goes back to his like birthplace or like his memories,
Memories, yeah.
that's that the sound actually has this like empty tinny hollow large space metal in a like trying to bang a metal on a very large space. The echo that happens is the feeling of that, is that ringing feeling, and that's what makes you feel like you're immersed in that location. What
But
would have
Hemant,
worked
but
for him
Hemant,
here
whatever,
would have
but
been
Hemant,
wavy, like something waves. It's all
but
watery.
Hemant, what you are describing there is also essentially sound design, which isn't much of a problem within the movie.
No,
Sound
I
design
mean
is
it's
very
not.
good.
I think it's more of because Hans Zimmer does this so well with like the in I mean again back to Dune, the whole that kind of like
Yeah.
effect that he has in just this the pads, the synth pads. That's all sand. It's kind of immerse you as much as possible. For him, if the camera is so immersive, if the sound is so immersive, if the character's dialogue is trying to tell him exactly what you're feeling, so you're immersed and you're in on the same page as the character, how is it that like the music is supposed to be sequence based and spectacle based? It is not immersive. It's not something that's actually
I
giving you
think
a
for
story,
I think
giving
for
you
me,
more to actually lean into.
I think for me, the music works in essentially reconciling with the editing problems that even Varun stated. I think the music actually helps me in navigating through the editing of it all, because I felt
Yeah.
the rhythm of the movie that is very much in line with the music itself. Whatever
Sure.
I
music
listen
is
like
taking.
if you listen to I really live by this, is that if you can watch a movie and then listen to the full soundtrack album again, you should watch the movie in your head automatically,
Sure.
and
Yeah,
that does
sure.
not happen with this. That
Sure.
does not
Interesting.
happen with this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think
बोलो 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 आप बोलो आप
Varu,
बोलो.
हाँ बोलो
no,
Varun. And we will
saying
wrap this
something
up
along the
in
lines
like
of
the last sort of, this is the
Yeah,
last.
I think we have covered almost everything already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Nolan tends to be maximalist with his music choices or his use of music, because obviously he's not playing any instrument himself.
Yes.
He might have instructions on what he wants the music to be like, but ultimately it's up to the composer. It's maximalist where the filmmaking is dialed up, which is what I felt here. Like I felt the music was maximalist in on its own terms. It doesn't need to be orchestral to feel almost
No, of
too
course.
much or overwhelming. But as opposed to somewhere like Dunkirk where it's far more clinical, in Oppenheimer where it goes exactly with the prestige drama wrapper of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
film. So I think it tends to have that synchronicity with the film. I enjoyed it, I suppose, because it was unusual.
Yeah, I think my
And-
big point is that it is eclectic. I was like, I didn't know when
Yeah.
it was being used in what context. So to me, I'm
It's
from a
probably
broader
also why
perspective.
like Man, because he uses covers as opposed to
Yeah.
original artists. Like he'll get Moby to do a cover, or I think he'd done a Joy Division cover on one of the bits of Heat, for instance. Force Marker, which is that very
I mean, the end
sort of
credits
memorable
song in
track.
this is a bit iffy.
Miami Vice.
It's a bit
yeah,
hokey.
like,
Travis Scott,
yeah.
right?
A little, not in this
No,
film,
in
please.
this
It was the
they use
sentiment.
James Blake's voice. Like I heard it, I didn't know. I very vehemently try to like avoid reading about anything other than like if this is based on a book or something like that, I'll do it. Like Project Hail Mary, I read the book before the movie, and
That's quite the devastation. I'm
no, I
surprised.
mean I actually like both. It's
Oh my
it's
God,
fun.
Farhan.
As
Hemant,
long
you
as it's fun.
can. Is it
Like
fun,
no,
really?
I don't think, yeah, I don't think that like okay, in this, like when you guys said like it's eclectic and it's like, I don't think it's eclectic enough. I feel like
Okay,
it's playing
fair,
it way too safe. Like it's playing it way
fair,
too
fair.
safe. This is like they had so many opportunities to actually give you a feeling of being there rather than the emotion.
Sure.
But they didn't. They just tried
No,
not to.
I think the I get your I think I generally get the sort of well-behaved baseline Nolan thing fair bit actually with this. I yeah, and I mean again I'm gonna rewatch this next Monday, so I will let you know if I am in more agreement
Yeah.
with you guys.
I
But
I will
think
wait
one
for
thing I agree
tomorrow.
with Chris is the fact that the creative instinct is constantly like in wrestle with the
oh,
material.
Conflict with, yeah.
your
So
rating
It's
has
every
all
become
choice
very
he
half.
makes,
It's
generous,
all half
Arjun. Now,
measures, I think.
yeah. So
I
yeah,
think the,
so yeah, so there's no
Oh, half
consistency in the
measures
way he,
water.
yeah,
yeah,
so there is no
yeah.
consistency in the way he uses them. He just
sure.
picks and chooses. Okay, this works for this works for that. So that from a someone who's not a fan of the work obviously will be like put off by that sort of like inconsistency. So yeah,
Yeah.
I get what these guys are saying. Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, I was telling Chris, I've rewatched like 20, 30 minutes of Memento before joining the podcast. I was like, this is very quaint. In like just how little music is being used always, and just it's just very nice to be here. He's such a I do think he's a very fussy filmmaker, and I don't like fussy filmmakers that much anymore. But I'm just like I think his core obsessions about sort of self deception and sort of are so interlinked for me with something like cinema and memories that I think whatever he makes, I'm kind of intertwined in whatever he's trying to explore at least. So, which I think Odyssey mein, he comes back to a bunch of them with myths and narration and
Yeah.
storytelling and memories and all that. So, I think him again he's a very odd filmmaker in a blockbuster context to me, not as odd as a Villeneuve, who I think is very I find it extremely strange that he's become huge, considering I think he's even a icier filmmaker than Nolan in that respect, because
Yeah.
he's very clinical. He's
I
not
mean,
I
the
don't yeah
blockbuster, I mean, his sensibility matching with the blockbuster, whenever I think of it, I don't think of Dune. I think of more like a Sicario.
yeah
Yeah, I
I
yeah
think
think
when
of
you're
more like a
Dhruv,
Sicario.
when you're talking earlier about like the how Nolan is an author who
Hmm.
has that sensibility of independent films or
Yeah,
about like art house cinema, which is married to the blockbuster. I
yeah.
think Denny is like really the one that actually he
No, I
championed it
agree.
maybe,
I
but I
agree.
think the one who's like the one who really does it. Like if
No, no,
there's a Beethoven, there's a Mozart. Like, and
no, I totally
I
get
feel
it.
like there's definitely Denny who's
I
the
think
one who's
it's.
actually marrying it.
I think I'm coming it from the point of view that my introduction to a lot of Hollywood cinema was Inception, and to me, Inception was I hadn't seen again. That was my limitation at that time that I hadn't seen most stuff. But like the whole idea was that I didn't know that it could like blockbuster cinema could be as cerebral or whatever you want to call it at that time also. So to
More
me,
than
of
anything, I
course,
think Inception was inventive at a time when blockbuster cinema was becoming more and more dull,
plodding
flat,
sort of your
and very
3D
Same.
and
quickly
all
we would
that.
have
Yeah.
that. I don't mean this as criticism. We would have that wave of
So,
Marvel come in
hmm.
and just flatten the whole damn thing out, right? And
Yeah.
Especially
so
visually, I
now you
think so. Yeah.
really,
Yeah, yeah, visually,
yeah,
definitely.
where
Yeah.
I
And
mean
now
that's
we
Robert
have like this
Richardson also
whole
walking out of World War Z, right? With whole the lookup table controversy over that
Yeah.
film, and
I
he didn't want a
mean,
film designed by
Edgar Wright
committee.
walked out of Ant-Man at some point.
Ant-Man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
That
created
was more of a
differences, but yeah,
script
Pref-
problem.
He
preference.
said
I
Yeah.
think
Most
it's a
we have
running
also
man.
like
I
I
don't
think
know
we have gone
why.
complete
But
like
yeah.
we have gone complete like extremes where there is overly stylistic like A24 is what I think of. Like Backrooms, Obsession, all these movies. And
Obsession is
then
not them, just to clarify. That's
it's
focus features.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
But it
yeah.
feels very
It's
A24.
the same thing,
Does
general
it?
framing. There are some of the things that they follow, right? Like
Yeah.
Like
visually,
I
aesthetic, and
I
like
stuff
think,
the
but
like
way
that.
that's
24.
more a question of them being mobile phone filmmakers
Yeah,
than
yeah.
Yeah,
them working for a certain label
the medium
or
is
a
like
studio.
they are deciding it based on that.
I
Yeah.
I think like
Exactly.
the wave start at least for me the wave started when like people like Ari Aster who have that like grungy really like stuff you've never seen before. Pasolini is my I watch what is it
Bergman. Bergman
Salo
is
as for fun and people like that like the people
Robert
that
Eggers
became
and
like
Ari Aster, you mean?
yeah
Both
Robert
of
yeah
them.
these
Yeah,
guys
cinephile the filmmakers. Yeah,
Cinephilia. Cinephilia is
I
cinephilia.
call them gonzo cinephilia. Yeah,
Okay.
like
the
these guys.
Gonzo is very different. Gonzo is more like I'm
Harmony
thinking more
These
correct.
like
are these are
yeah,
normie cinephiles. Yeah, these are
yeah.
normie people. Like,
Art
but
These
they're
are
Gonzo
like
saying
is more
Europe,
odd
your
stuff.
art, your movie cinephiles.
movie
You've been on
cinephile.
Letterboxd too long to forget that like people aren't like this. Like
Quite
people
possibly, quite
like
possibly. Yeah, quite possibly.
as
Yeah.
a man of the people, so
Of
like
all the
all
things you can't
I
call
think
yourself that, Hemant. Of all the
people
stuff.
who people. So the no, and then the other side is the flatter, more like trying to evoke the sense of blockbuster in like a TV budget, those kind of
Yeah.
things, like Mandalorian and Grogu.
Mandalorian
Uh,
and Grogu.
yeah,
Can't
like
believe we've mentioned it
Star Wars and
3
Grogu.
times.
Sorry, Dhruv. Sorry,
Star
Dhruv.
Wars
Star
and
Wars and
Grogu, yeah.
Grogu.
Which is the
So
appropriate title, just to make it clear. Yeah.
It
yeah,
should have
it
been
is.
the
It
Star
is
Wars colon Grogu. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a Grogu movie.
nostalgia and capitalism.
Oh,
So
nostalgia can literally just
and
die a
and
thousand
yeah,
deaths.
and I think this is somewhere, actually really this is somewhere in the middle, where it is
Yeah.
trying to invite you to something that is going to make you appreciate what is being presented to you, and also be like, okay, you are in good hands, maybe you'll have a nice experience, but
Yeah.
after this you'll feel great about watching movies rather than regretting and being like, oh, I should have just watched it on Disney
I think,
Plus.
no. I think for me, there's a great admiration for this sort of cinema because I don't ever see, I don't otherwise see myself connecting with the mainstream in any other way. So to me, this is also the only sort of connection I have left with the mainstream.
Dhruv is not
Uh,
like the other girls, basically.
No, but that's true. I
So
don't.
pick me,
Your
pick me,
definition,
yeah.
also your definition, also the other version of mainstream for you is extreme mainstream as a result of association with Cris, that is Bollywood, which is
But
like
It's not a
like-
consequence of Chris. Let's not blame it on Chris.
Uh-huh.
Dhruv is a fan of mainstream Bollywood in a very specific time
Yeah,
period
I have a
and
very specific,
sensibility.
Yeah.
exactly. But regardless, अब तो
no,
रहा नहीं
we are
ना.
blaming it on
So-
Cris also. Kya we are not blaming it on Cris? We are blaming it
How
on
can we
I'm-
blame it on Chris? Dhruv's affection for K3G and all predate Chris.
Yes, definitely.
no,
No,
but
but
Cris is amplifying it. Nah, that's the
It's
problem.
about the handmade quality. That's what you're referring to, Dhruv, right? The handmade quality, tactility of the film.
I mean, yeah, like,
That's what
I
you're
would,
going for.
I didn't love Sinners, but like, I love that exists a blockbuster like Sinners. Like, that's, one of those things. It's one of those, like, I didn't love I hated Project Hail Mary, but I don't
Hey, I
begrudge
don't like
its
it either.
existence.
I don't like
So,
it either.
like, it's one of those things. I'm like, they are, like, Project Hail Mary is a very specific type of blockbuster. I hate the sense of humor in it, but it is a very specific type of sense of humor. I'm like, okay, go for it. At least you're doing it.
You
It's
mean
one of
that
those
I mean,
Ryan
things.
also, I
Reynolds
think
Gosling
to give credit where
No,
it's due,
I don't
even though
berate that to that degree. Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds style humor is something that just lives for their brand. I don't think
Gosling,
anyone
yes,
else actually
Reynolds,
likes
no.
it. Yeah.
But no,
Oh no,
what I
Ryan
was saying
Gosling.
was,
Sorry, I was just saying Ryan Reynolds. Really, Ryan Gosling is fine. He's
Gosling's good,
yeah.
generally,
Gosling is
not
great,
in
yeah.
Project Hail Mary, but yeah, anyways.
No, I think with something like Project Hail Mary, I liked it. But even I will say, like, it has its shortcomings or whatever. I think the fact that they sat down and said, okay, let's figure out how this film is going to look, as opposed to it looking
Yes.
like every other film.
Sludge.
You
Yeah.
can tell Greg
Slop.
Fraser worked hard to make that film look the way it did.
Yeah.
He sat with a team and designed that outer space journey where
I mean,
Grace is outside of the spaceship.
You need to go
want
to a
that
cinema.
level of thought to
Yeah,
go into
you,
a cinema.
you want to go to
into a
the
film.
cinema and be like, it looks like a film. Like, that's the
Yeah.
baseline
It's a
competency
movie.
it
That's
has
a
Yeah.
bare
come down
minimum
to.
that one can ask these
Yeah.
days. It's like
Which
age of
is-
अरे
which
flop.
is
वो तो
my-
नहीं मिलता है ना वो तो नहीं मिलता है
नहीं
ना
मिलता,
No,
that's
which is my
true.
No,
complaint
this
when
it's a product of enshirtification. It's like they eventually. I mean,
Oh God, we are
they
bringing this
starve
up
you.
now. We
They
are going to bring
starve
this
you
up
until
now.
you're like,
Ah.
oh my god, one hope for
Matlab,
movie. Oh,
okay. So like that all. But I'm not saying, like, after watching the Odyssey, I wasn't like, this is like the, savior of cinema or anything. I'm just like, I enjoyed it. Like, I'm like,
I
went to the
enjoyed it,
cinema and
exactly.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm glad that this exists in this form.
Huh.
That's what I was feeling. Like, this
yeah,
exists.
like
Yeah.
last year there was this whole brouhaha about F1.
Oof.
And to me, that was the shortcoming of that film, right? That it
That's
just
a
felt
meeting, like a
so
executive meeting
painfully
speech
safe.
brought to life.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
It is like a
anybody could have made
prompt
that
that
film.
came into a
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
And
So like slop. Like
there
As
was that
someone
whole
who
thing
actually likes F1, it was so painful. To
No,
watch.
it was a
I mean,
combat
no,
sport. Like,
no,
let's
you
leave
like the
that.
film, Chris. Hemant likes the sport.
Yeah, like a
No, no,
perfectly serviceable film, but that's it. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't go
Serviceable.
beyond that.
serviceable film.
Yeah, it doesn't go
Serviceable.
beyond that.
I don't know what they were doing with how it looked like.
It looked like an
it
Apple
was to me
product,
just
yeah.
no, but like you say, we've done
Very
this whole
expensive
thingamajig
product.
with cameras and whatever.
Apple को क्यों
I think it's
छोड़ा?
also because a lot of filmmakers have migrated
Apple
to
की तो
streaming.
है.
That's why I'm looking
फिर
forward
तू
to
और
the
क्यों गए हो
Adventures of
सबसे
Cliff
पहले?
Booth, because
Oh yeah.
Fincher
Oh, yeah,
back in
that movie.
theaters is going to be a good experience just for the way he films.
Let's wait for this.
No,
yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan. I'm not
No,
like
I
I
have
may
hope.
not have liked
I
The Killer,
weirdly
but I'm
no,
a
no,
fan
I
of it.
No,
weirdly have
no,
hope
I
for
don't
this.
mean with Fincher. My shade isn't
weirdly-
towards Fincher.
I weirdly have
But I'm
hope
not
for
bothered about the writing. Fincher's films always feel like
They
a fun
do feel like
experience,
film. Yes, true. Sorry,
even
Amartya,
without-
you were saying, and we close this Odyssey of ours also. I think it's been quite a long one.
I don't actually have much of a closing thought to say. There is nothing of a closing thought to say about this at this point
It will
of
go on forever.
It will go on. It's
What
I
was
mean,
the
I
last
just
line
checked
of the Odyssey?
tickets.
Yeah.
And it we shall forget again, or something like that. Whatever we keep on doing.
I
again,
don't know,
History will be
but
forgotten.
I mean, this is a
Yeah.
good closing thought, I suppose. I just checked for tickets again; they're sold out till the 10th of September.
What?
Great news.
For IMAX?
I can't for IMAX 70. I
That's
can't get a
insane.
ticket.
Listen, like if nothing else, it doesn't matter. I think at this point, what we think of
Yeah,
Nolan's film
the film's
quality.
taken
Yeah.
264
I
million
think
on its opening
The
weekend.
having
film
a
was
film-
preordained to earn
And
$1
it's-
billion plus before Nolan even had the thought of making
Thought of
it.
it,
The
yeah. This
tenet
whole
of making
conversation,
the Odyssey and releasing
this whole
it.
conversation was like irrelevant, No one cares.
I mean, but it's insane though. I
It's
think
been done.
it's I mean, it's also
I
very
also think-
satisfying to see it go wrong for people who predicted it will fail, because it has
Arey,
quote
those are
unquote
the dumbos.
Those are the, like,
That's not
you know,
even worth engaging with.
Yeah.
Like, at this
Also,
point.
shout out to Nolan for casting Elliot Page in the bravest man there is.
Yes. Great casting in that
Great
sense.
it works in the
yeah.
context of the film. Yeah, it really
No,
works.
I
yeah.
really like. I mean, I
cannot
think my
describe the
favorite
joy
bit.
of watching him on screen at this point.
I really like. the
And not
bit
for his
where-
acting, which is still pretty mid.
even
Just
in
for the fact that he's there, that's
No,
what
his
makes it good
acting
for-
is
even in the
fine.
underworld
fine.
sequence was actually pretty
He's
great.
very good at that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No, I
nice.
mean,
That was better.
I totally agree with the joke that
The
Varun
meme.
shared. Yeah, it's very famous that, I support Elliot Page in the hope that, him becoming his true self would make him a better actor.
Better
but it's
actor.
not.
But it's still not happening. क्या और कर सकते हैं?
That Elliot Page wasn't bad.
He's a good actor.
No, it's
I'm
a
just
joke,
kidding.
sir. It's a
Okay.
person.
I thought
finding
the
on
other
his
joke was
acting.
that they transitioned. He transitioned after being in a Nolan film because.
Time.
Wow.
No, because Nolan
Then
and
he'll get
women.
more screen time. Then he'll
Yeah,
get more
Nolan
screen time.
That also.
Yeah, Nolan and
fair
women was the joke, not the time.
Marion
Uh,
Cotillard was in that film for a fair bit.
She's
I wish
good.
she hadn't been.
I really like her.
Yeah.
in
Also, by
Inception.
the way, I think we are done because
Yeah.
I have to.
Please.
Thank you.
Khatam.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Amartya. What a abrupt closer for this.
Sir, अगर
But,
मैं close नहीं करता ये OTC चलता रहता है. I'm
that
telling
is
you.
also very
Yeah.
true. Very true.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank
Sir
you.
जी को 90 मिनट में करनी थी ये episode for
I told you to
the
kick me
listeners.
out. Thank you so much.
180.
Yeah.
180 chalta hai.
Almost.
Chris, you'll edit it. Thank you so much for listening to
Absolutely
this.
not.
It's my birthday. Come on, you can edit it.
You
Thank
don't
so
care
much.
about your
Birthday
birthday.
to
ये क्या है
you.
यार?
Good card. Yeah,
Happy
yeah, we
birthday
are
Yeah,
doing
exactly. I
to
can use that
you.
card now. Abhi.
Happy
So-
birthday, dear Dhruv.
You're not
Happy
including this, but
birthday
thank you so
to
much
Of
for
course we
listening to
are.
this. Thank you
Now
so much for
Chris
listening
should
to
edit
this.
it.
Chris definitely will edit it. Yeah.
No, I think Chris will leave out everything in it. I would like to edit a bunch of
I
it
wouldn't
out.
cut a thing. I
Yeah,
would just
yeah.
leave it as it.
Anyways, thank you so much for listening to this episode. You can follow us on Letterboxd, Instagram, wherever you want. All the descriptions are all the
YouTube, please. We are uploading episodes regularly on YouTube.
Okay.
Please follow us there.
Acha, there. Acha, वो तो
Lot of
same
people,
Spotify
have abandoned Spotify over their political views. So
Sure,
please
sure. YouTube पे
get
job है
them
आप,
to
please.
join us
हाँ.
on YouTube.
Yeah, before they take out our episodes for copyright claims and all that nonsense, which they have for some of them. Anyway, someone sang in this episode or the reel we did, so that is also might get copyrighted. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I don't know when we'll get Hemant back, but all of us otherwise will be back soon.
No.
Amartya most
Yeah.
definitely for Spider-Man brand new
Yeah, if
day.
you don't
Day
bring me
home,
back for that one, I will be disappointed. But
brand new
ठीक है.
day home. What is it called?
Brand new day.
Brand new day.
Acha,
home.
It's
day.
a
Okay.
it's a day
Brand new
trilogy
day,
now,
so-
not the home trilogy. It's a day
Acha,
trilogy.
okay, amazing. See you. Bye
Daniel
bye.
Day. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Bye bye. Take care and
Manoj De
khatam.
Ramalan.
and
Manoj De Ramalan, yes.
and khatam. Thank you.